Chapter 71. Chen Daoxian didn't know that he was being watched by Luo Li at this time. He is now fully devoted to the comprehension of chasing the wind and covering the rain sword art, with no distractions. On the sea. The rain is fast and slow and the white marks are in the rain. It was very obvious at the beginning, but in the end, it actually merged into the rain, and the two are no longer separated from each other. This moment, Luo Li, who was not far away, suddenly felt that the trembling feeling that made her pores stand up disappeared. But Luo Li knew that the power of Chen Daoxuan's flying sword not only did not weaken, but instead became more dangerous. Because his envoy's flying sword can actually blind the cultivator's consciousness and make outsiders automatically ignore the sense of crisis. Luo Li, who has participated in many battles, knows how terrifying the effect of this kind of trick will be in battle. Just ask, the enemy Feijin is approaching and you are aware of the danger. Whether it is defense or offense, you are at a disadvantage at this moment. Lori didn't know. Fortunately, he was not in the range of rain, otherwise her reaction would be even more unbearable. Even if her cultivation is a level higher than that of Chen Daoxian, it is equivalent to a human foundation-building cultivator. This shows that Chen Daoxuan's kendo level at the moment is enough to pose a certain threat to the foundation-building cultivator. Only, not far away, the rain that enveloped Chen Daoxian suddenly dissipated. Chen Daoxuan's face was pale at the moment, and the true qi in the Dantian Qi Sea was completely consumed at this moment. Chen Daoxuan's eyes immediately returned to clarity, and he woke up from the epiphany state. But without his true energy he couldn't even continue to use the wind control technique, and he stumbled and fell into the sea. In less than 3 breaths after he fell into the sea, a soft touch came from behind him. Chen Daoxuan's consciousness swept away, and he knew who was holding him in the water. Whoa! 2 figures burst out of the sea. It was Chen Daoxian and Luo Li. It's just that the posture of the two of them was a little awkward at this time. Chen Daoxian was hugged from behind by Luo Li, and a pair of Ro-Yi hugged Chen Daoxian tightly. After half a cup of tea, Luo Li helped Chen Daoxian to sit down at Guanhai Pavilion, and asked with concern, "Are you all right?" Hearing this, a smile appeared on Chen Daoxuan's pale face and he cupped his hands and said, "It's okay, thank you Miss Luo for your help, otherwise my trip would be in a mess." Hearing Chen Daoxuan's self-deprecating voice, Luo Li covered her mouth and laughed lightly. Seeing the other party smiling so happily, Chen Daoxian lowered his head and found that he was soaked all over at the moment, with his clothes just sticking to his body, very embarrassed. Seeing his appearance, Luo Li Fei stepped forward, stretched out her plain white hand, and pressed it in front of Chen Daoxian. Immediately, water vapor evaporated from Chen Daoxuan's body. In the pavilion, the two of them were enveloped in a burst of water vapor, and even the atmosphere became a little charming. Half an hour. Seeing that Chen Daoxuan's whole body had recovered to the pure, Luo Li retracted his palm and said with a smile, "Okay. Thank you for making Miss Luo laugh." Chen Daoxian thanked him again. "We are friends now, so there is no need to thank you for this trivial matter." After he finished speaking, he blinked at Chen Daoxian. Seeing her like this, Chen Daoxian smiled and nodded, not knowing what to write in his heart. For a while both of them were silent. "You. I." The two spoke in unison. Seeing this, Luo Li chuckled, shook her little hand and said, "You talk first." "Okay." Chen Daoxian nodded embarrassedly. "Last time I told Miss Luo about the purchase of Lingmi, because I haven't found a suitable channel for the time being, so this matter has to be postponed for the time being." Hearing this, Luo Li nodded, indicating that she was clear, and then said, "What about the weapon?" "We brought weapons." Having said that, Chen Daoxian untied a storage bag on his waist, handed it over and said, "The flying swords refined in the past few months are all here." Luo Li took the storage bag, swept away her consciousness and frowned slightly. "How do I feel? This time you have not refined as many flying swords as last time." Chen Daoxian nodded and said, "You feel right." He paused. "If I remember correctly, Miss Luo's clan has tens of thousands, right?" Hearing this, Luo Li was silent for a while, then said, "We now have a total of more than 67,000 clan members." Hearing this, Chen Daoxian nodded. "I was thinking about a question after I went back last time. With the speed at which my Chen family makes magic tools, it seems that it will take a long time to satisfy all of your mermen. Moreover, the service life of magic tools in the deep sea is shorter than that on land. As a result, I am afraid that it will be more difficult for the Chen family to meet your needs for magic tools." Hearing this, Luo Li did not speak. She knew that what Chen Daoxian said was the truth. At the speed of the Chen family's production of flying swords, it is indeed a bit difficult to satisfy all the mermaids. Seeing her like this, Qin Daoxian continued, so after I went back last time I was doing one thing, that is, I want to train artifact refiners in the clan. But Miss Luo, you also know that it is very difficult to train an artifact refiner. Not only does it take a lot of resources, but we also need the hands-on teaching of our senior artifact artisans from the Qin family. Therefore, the production of Feijin has been delayed during this period of time, but please rest assured, Miss Luo, when our Qin family trains this batch of craftsmen, we will be able to make a large number of magic tools for your mermen. By then, I think you mermen will never be short of weapons again. Hearing this, Luo Li immediately blushed with excitement, grabbed Qin Daoxuan's cuff and said excitedly, "What are you saying is true?" Cough cough. Qin Daoxian pulled away his cuffs calmly and smiled. "It's true, I have to thank you mermen for this matter. It is precisely because of our transactions with you that we have earned a lot of spirit stones, and our Qin family has enough resources to train refiners." Luo Li didn't care about Qin Daoxuan's movement of pulling his hand away. His little head kept nodding, agreeing. "This is what you said, win-win, right?" "Right." Qin Daoxian laughed. After a few more chats, the two completed the transaction. This is the third transaction between the two parties. Everyone has established enough trust, so they are very confident about each other in the transaction. Transaction complete. Luo Li looked at Qin Daoxian and said, "You are exhausted at the moment, how can you go back?" Qin Daoxian ignored this issue and replied, "It's okay, I'll just recover here overnight." Luo Li glanced around, shook his head and said, "This place is inaccessible and there are bound to be monsters. In order to avoid danger, let me give you a ride." After finishing speaking, Mei Mu looked at Qin Daoxian. After thinking about it, Qin Daoxian smiled and nodded, "Then I will trouble Miss Luo." Luo Li smiled slightly, shook her head, took a step forward and grabbed Qin Daoxuan's right hand. Next second, Qin Daoxian only felt that the world was spinning for a while, and he regained his senses again. He had plunged into the sea with Luo Li. This is the second time Qin Daoxian has entered the sea in his life. The time when he fell into the sea just now was too hasty, and before he had time to feel it, he was rescued by Luo Li from the sea. Now, he finally felt what it was like to walk through the sea. In sea water. At a depth of about 100 meters, the faint moonlight in the sky shone into the sea, only emitting a hazy moonlight, which was very dim. Fortunately, Qin Daoxian possessed divine consciousness, so he was not too panicked in the face of this dim scene. He swept through his consciousness and found that the appearance of Luo Li and the mere people behind him was actually attached to a thin film, which isolated them from the sea. This is... Qin Daoxian looked suspiciously at Luo Li, who was holding his right hand, because he found that there was such a thin film on the surface of his body. Obviously, this is a water escape technique unique to the merman race. Seemingly knowing what Qin Daoxian wanted to ask, Luo Li smiled and said, "This is the innate supernatural power of our merman." Chapter 72. Spring and autumn come and time flies. In the blink of an eye, a year has passed. Twin Lakes Island. About a dozen miles away from the industrial zone, a huge mansion with green bricks and green tiles, covering an area of hundreds of acres, is located in the main spirit eye of the spirit vein. The owner of this mansion is the young patriarch of the Qin family, Qin Daoxian. On weekdays, in addition to Qin Daoxian, there are only some young women from the Qin family who act as maids here, clean up for Qin Daoxian and maintain the flowers and plants of the Lingfu. Fortunately, it is located above the spiritual veins of the Qin family. Compared with the wilderness plain outside the spirit gathering array, it is completely different. In Lingfu, in a fresh and elegant courtyard, a figure sat cross-legged in front of Ling Tan. Above the Ling Tan, a water spirit bead is quietly suspended, and the mist gathers from the spirit pool towards the water spirit bead, refining, transforming it into true qi and finally storing it in the Dantian Qi Si. Call? Qin Daoxian opened his eyes, and a trace of joy flashed in his eyes. Compared with the spiritual eyes in the cave mansion of the Red Copper Mountains, the spiritual energy in front of the mouth is many times more abundant. Not to mention that in front of this Ling Tan, even within the 10-mile radius gathering spirit formation, the aura floating in the air is not much less than the aura in the eyes of the spirit at the beginning. Compared with the past, the current cultivation environment is like heaven. I didn't expect that the difference between the late stage of qi refining and the middle stage of qi refining is so big. It took me nearly a year to break through from the 6th level of qi refining to the 7th level of qi refining. Qin Daoxian sighed. Although he knew that it would become more difficult the further back he practiced. But he didn't expect that the level from the middle stage of qi refining to the late stage of qi refining would block him for nearly a year. After all, Chen Daoxian was 17 and nearly 18 this year. Compared with a year and a half ago, his immature face has also become more mature. Especially during this period of time when he was in charge of family affairs, living in qi and nourishing the body, his temperament has undergone earth-shaking changes. No longer a young cultivator, but a patriarch of the Chen clan who holds the power of the family. Contemplative room. A figure flew over from afar. Chen Daoxian looked up and saw that it was the only female cultivator of the Chen family, Chen Daolian. For more than a year, with the joint assistance of the Shui Lingzhu Qi Gathering Pill and First-Order Spiritual Veins, Chen Daolian's cultivation has advanced by leaps and bounds, and has reached the third level of qi refining. Compared with the time Chen Daoxian took 5 years to break through from the first layer of qi refining to the third layer of qi refining, it was 5 times faster. Not only Chen Daolian but Chen Daochu, like her, is now at the third level of qi refining. As for the other 3 who had broken through the first level of qi refining together, apart from Chen Daochuan who had broken through to the second level of qi refining, the other 2, like the remaining 4 immortal seedlings, were still at the first level of qi refining. This is also impossible. Although there are various resources to assist, but in the case of the same resources, the cultivation speed of monks with good spiritual roots is faster than that of monks with poor spiritual roots. In fact, these few monks with low spiritual roots were fortunate enough to be born in the Chen family. If they were in a big family, monks with poor spiritual roots like them would not get much resources at all. Not to mention the same treatment as the cultivator of the spiritual root. The Chen family has no shortage of resources for cultivation, but there is a shortage of people, so they poured resources into it regardless of the cost. It is foreseeable that as the new Chen family children grow up, the Chen family's allocation of cultivation resources will definitely become closer to the big family. Also, good qualifications are preferred. After all, this is the only way to maximize the use of resources and enhance the strength of the family. Young patriarch. Lowering her body, Chen Daolian took 2 steps forward and respectfully saluted Chen Daoxian. Compared with a year ago, Chen Daolian's cowardice disappeared, and the whole person became more confident from the inside out. Chen Daoxian nodded. What's the matter? The old patriarch is back at the Hongyin Feijian factory. Real? Hearing that Uncle 13 was back, Chen Daoxian hurriedly stood up from the futon, and his serious face was replaced by a look of surprise. Seeing the expression of the young patriarch, Chen Daolian looked like she wanted to laugh and didn't dare to laugh, her face flushed red. Chen Daoxian glanced at her and said with a smile, "Let's go, come with me to see." As he said that, he waved his sleeves, used the wind-fighting technique, wrapped the figures of the 2, and flew towards the Feijian factory 10 miles away. Less than half a cup of tea. The figures of the 2 men descended at the Feijian factory. With his consciousness swept away, Chen Daoxian discovered Chen Xian's location. Uncle 13. Before anyone arrived, Chen Daoxuan's voice already sounded in Chen Xian's ears. Chen Xian had turned his head when he heard the sound, and saw his nephew who was brought up since childhood, with a smile on his old face. "You came just in time, I'm testing the refining skills of these boys." Chen Daoxian looked at Chen Daochu and the others who were pointing at him, and said with a smile, "Uncle 13, I promise you will be surprised this time." Oh. Hearing this, Chen Xian's eyes lit up slightly. I have to say, for more than a year the Chen family has invested too much resources in the Chen Daochu 5 people. Compared with the resources Chen Daoxian spent in learning the refining equipment, the resources Chen Daochu spent at least 10 times as much as him. If it wasn't for Chen Daoxian talking about his life all day long, or if the mere people had a copper vein in their hands, there would be no shortage of spiritual or resources. It is impossible for Chen Daochu to become an artifact refiner. Actually, the current Chen Daochu and Chen Daolian are not really a refiner. Because according to the evaluation of the refiners in the immortal cultivation world, even the lowest level first-order low-grade artifact refiners must be proficient in at least 3 refining methods for first-order low-grade instruments. And Chen Daochu and others, except for refining a red shadow flying sword, other magic tools are not. Not only that, they said that they could refine the red shadow flying sword, but they couldn't refine this step at all. Because of this step, the Rongling furnace and the ordinary workers who control it are all done for it. After all, Chen Daochu and the others can only be regarded as half a pot of water. But half a pot of water is half a pot of water. It is an indisputable fact that Chen Daochu and the others can perfectly produce the red shadow Feijian with the help of the Rongling furnace. This is also the only place where Chen Daoxian feels relieved. He doesn't need Qin Daochu and others to reach the level of refiners required by the outside world, as long as they can meet the assembly line requirements of the Feijin factory. Because this means that Feijin factory will usher in a new round of production capacity explosion. Under Qin Ziyan's gaze. One by one, Qin Daochu and the others refined the red shadow Feijin intact. Qin Xinhe took over the flying swords they refined, injected a burst of true energy and repeatedly praised, "The refining is good, not much worse than your little patriarch." Hearing the praise from the old patriarch, Qin Daochu and the others showed happy expressions on their faces. This proves that their hard work for more than a year has not been in vain. After speaking, Qin Xinhe looked at Qin Daoxian and said, "Since they have been able to refine the red shadow Feijin at the beginning of the Dao, shouldn't the expansion of the Feijin factory be put on the agenda?" Hearing this, Qin Daoxian frowned slightly. Chapter 73. He glanced at Qin Xinhe, hesitated before speaking, then waved at Qin Daochu's group and said, "Okay, it'll be here today, you go back first." Hearing this, Qin Daochu and the others looked at each other with a look of liberation on their faces, but they didn't dare to laugh out loud, so they lowered their heads and smirked. "Patriarch, young patriarch, I will retire first." After finishing speaking, Qin Daochu and his party disappeared without a trace. "Watch everyone leave." Qin Xinhe said, "Daoxian, is there any problem?" Qin Daoxian nodded. "Uncle 13, didn't you tell me before, do you need to slow down the expansion of the Feijin market in Sangxiafeng City?" After finishing speaking, Qin Daoxian looked at Qin Xinhe very puzzled. It's not that the Qin family has no chance to sell them wildly. In fact, in the past year or so, the Qin family has accumulated a large number of flying swords in addition to the transactions with the mermen. More than a year. Qin Xinhe sold Feijin in Sangxiafeng City, Guang'an Prefecture almost at the frequency of 1 Feijin per day, and sold more than 300 Feijin in total. This speed, compared with other magic weapon shops in Sangxiafeng City, it is not outstanding, nor does it attract much attention. However, this has recently changed. After listening to Qin Ziyan's narration, Qin Daoxian was shocked and hurriedly said, "You mean our Hongyin Feijin store has been spied on by others recently?" "That's right." Qin Xinhe said with a sullen face, "According to my observation for more than a year, there are a total of 43 magic weapon shops in Sangxiafeng City, most of which are operated by Sanxio and only 7 are like us. The small family is running it. The magic weapon shops in Sangxiafeng City are not very profitable. First of all, their source of supply, that is, those second-hand instruments, were purchased at a high price from the children of the big family. In addition, the price they sell is not high, there are only 50 spirit stones, so the profit is very limited. Actually, if the Qin family had not adopted the method of industrialized assembly line production, even if Qin Daoxian used the method of opening and hanging to refine the magical instruments, he would not have earned much spiritual stones in a year. Not to mention those magic weapon shops in Sangxiafeng City, there is no magician behind them." Qin Xinhe paused and continued, "According to my investigation, none of the 43 magic weapon shops are behind the establishment of foundation monks." Hearing this, Qin Daoxian seemed quite surprised. In Guang'an Prefecture, foundation building cultivators are not uncommon. Unexpectedly, there are no foundation building cultivators sitting behind the 43 magic weapon shops in Sangxiafeng City. This made Qin Daoxian quite surprised. But Qin Ziyan's next explanation let him know the reason. The reason is that opening a magic weapon shop in Sangxiafeng City is not a profitable business. The supply of goods, shop rent, labor costs, and the tax of Guang'an Prefecture Xianqing, if these costs are deducted, each shop can earn a few hundred spirit stones a year, which is considered a fortune. There are even many small shops in remote locations that cannot sell a few flying swords all year round, and they will lose money after a year. This is also the reason why many shops in Sangxiafeng City are empty. In the final analysis, loose cultivators are reluctant to buy second-hand magic tools sold in magic weapon shops in Sangxiafeng City. Let me ask, who wants to buy a second-hand magic weapon at the price of a magic weapon? But scattered cultivators are not like children of big families. They have special channels to buy low-level magic tools, so they can only grit their teeth and buy these second-hand magic tools. This is also the reason why Hongyin Feijin's business is so hot. It stands to reason that our shop sells more than 300 flying swords a year, which will not affect the huge market of magic weapons in Sangxiafeng City, but the situation seems to be a bit unexpected now. Speaking of this, Qin Xinhe had a wry smile on his face, because after learning that our store has brand new flying swords for sale, Those loose cultivators who originally went to other magic weapon stores to buy secondhand magic weapons would rather try their luck in our store. I also don't want to go to other stores to buy secondhand instruments. Come to think of it, this is normal too. Given the opportunity to buy a brand new magic weapon, who would buy a secondhand one at the same price? But in this way the Hongyin Feijin store has become a thorn in the eyes of the peers. Now the Qin family has two choices. One is to increase the price of Feijin. Only in this way, it is bound to offend the scattered cultivators in the entire scattered cultivator market. The Qin family is definitely not willing to do this, because doing so will not only offend the loose cultivator but also lose the market. The price of 50 spirit stones per mouthful of flying swords is basically the limit price that small scattered cultivators can bear. That would be equivalent to shutting out the largest market in Sangxiafang City. Naturally the Qin family would not do this. If the Qin family does not have an industrialized assembly line, it may be sold at a high price. But they have an industrial assembly line, and what they need most is a huge market that digests their production capacity. And the large number of loose cultivators in the loose cultivation market is just right for their Qin family. Since we can't raise the price, there is only one way and we will die with our peers. Qin Daoxian breathed a sigh of relief when he heard that there was no foundation establishment cultivator sitting behind the magic weapon shop in Sangxiafang City. He was afraid that there was a foundation building family behind the magic weapon shop in Sangxiafang City. Because the Qin family at this time is still too thin compared to any foundation building family in Guang'an Prefecture. Whether it is the number of monks or the quality of monks, there is a huge gap. To be honest, Qin Daoxian didn't pay too much attention to the scattered repair shopkeepers of the magic weapon shops. Loose cultivators represent that the opponent is weak and can only be supported by one person at most. For this kind of magic tool shop, the Qin family burns incense without asking the other party to trouble them. How dare they provoke the Qin family? The only thing to be afraid of is the 7 small families mentioned by Qin Xianhe. Although these small families are all chi-refining families, there is a family called the Mo family. In addition to having a first-order spiritual vein, the family also has dozens of chi-refining cultivators. The strength is much stronger than the current Qin family. If the two sides fight, the Qin family won't take any advantage. This is also considering that Qin Daoxuan's strength is at the top level among the cultivators in the qi refining period. Otherwise the Qin family would have no drama at all. Because now the Qin family is really capable of fighting, probably only Qin Daoxian alone. Qin Xianhe only has the 6th level of qi refining and he is old. If he fights with others, it is hard to say whether he can win the 5th level of qi refining. Not to mention Qin Daochu and the others. Although they have broken through to the 3rd level of qi refining in just 1 year, they have almost devoted their attention to refining tools in the past year. Just got to the entry level. In addition, he has also mastered a wind fighting technique and can fly. This kind of strength is probably only able to beat loose cultivators of the same level. In other words, Qin Daoxian is the only fighting force of the Qin family. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian couldn't help frowning. He looked at Qin Xian and said, "Uncle 13, what can you do?" After all, Qin Xianhe, who has been around for more than a year, must be far better than him when it comes to understanding the city of scattered cultivators. Seeing Qin Daoxian humbly asking for advice, Qin Xianhe smiled and stroked his beard and said, "I really have a good solution." Chapter 74. Southwest Waters of Wuxia. It is a spiritual island tens of thousands of miles away from Jianghu Island. This spiritual island is the Imo family land. Like the Qin family on Jianghu Island, the Imo family also has a first-order spiritual vein, but unlike the Qin family, the Imo family's spiritual vein was not cultivated. It was discovered by chance on this Lingdao hundreds of years ago, the ancestor of the Imo family. I have to say, the Imo clan's luck is very good. For hundreds of years, relying on this spiritual vein, the number of Imo family cultivators has never been lower than double digits. Even 200 years ago, the Imo family had a foundation-building cultivator. It's just that the foundation establishment cultivator died a few decades ago, and the Imo family fell into a trough. But even so, compared to the Qin family, the Imo family's heritage is still much deeper. In the horizon, a figure flew from far to near, towards a cave on Mo's Lingshan mountain. This person lowered his body and looked at his appearance. The person who came was in his 30s with a white face and no beard. He was dressed in a lavender Taoist robe and looked extraordinarily graceful and luxurious. This Mo family cultivator's cultivation level is as high as the 9th level of qi refining, and he is obviously in the stage of polishing and purifying his true qi. As long as he has polished and purified his true qi to the limit, he can try to build a foundation when he enters the state of perfection. Enter the cave. An old man in his 50s is sitting cross-legged on a lotus-shaped instrument, closing his eyes and practicing. Patriarch. Seeing the old man, the white-faced and beardless middle-aged cultivator saluted and said respectfully. The old man of the Mo family, who was called the Patriarch, opened his eyes, saw the middle-aged monk and said solemnly, Yu Qing, why are you back? Did something happen to the shop in Sangxiafeng City? Hearing this, the middle-aged cultivator named Mo Yuqing said with a solemn expression, That's right. Hearing that there was a problem with the family business, the old man hurriedly stood up and stepped forward 2 steps. Come on quickly. Yes. Mo Yuqing explained the ins and outs of the matter to the patriarch in front of him. The Mo family leader's cultivation level is higher than that of Mo Yuqing, and he has reached the perfect state of qi refining. He only needs a foundation-building pill and the support of a second-order spiritual vein, and he can immediately try to build a foundation. It can be said. The Mo family's magic weapon shop is not only the lifeline of the Mo family's industry, but also the hope of the Mo family's leader to build a foundation. It is precisely because the Mo's treasure pavilion makes nearly 1,000 spiritual stones every year, which gives the old man hope to buy the foundation establishment pill. Otherwise, the few acres of spiritual fields and a small spiritual medicine garden planted with the family's first-order spiritual veins would not even be enough to satisfy the cultivation of the family monks, let alone support him as the patriarch to build the foundation. Therefore, for Mo clan chief Mo Changxing, Mo clan's treasure pavilion is his hope for enlightenment, and he must not lose it. You mean that the Qin family on Jianghu Island has a group of refiners who have invaded the business of our Mo's treasure pavilion? Right. Mo Yuqing nodded. Because of the influence of the Hongyin Feijin shop, the profit of my Mo's treasure pavilion has dropped by 50% this year, and it's only less than 500 spirit stones. What? Hearing this, Mo Changxing immediately panicked. He is already 53 this year. According to the consensus of the practice world, if a cultivator cannot successfully establish a foundation before the age of 60, with the decline of qi and blood, the probability of success in establishing a foundation will decrease as the qi and blood decline. In other words, Mo Changxing couldn't wait a few years. Originally, the Mo family had accumulated more than 30,000 spiritual stones in order to support his patriarch in building the foundation. But Mo Changxing knew that 30,000 spirit stones would not be safe to buy the foundation establishment pill at Zhou's auction house. According to Zhou's auction house's average auction price for the foundation pill, the Mo family must at least prepare more than 40,000 spirit stones. This is not even the price that Mo Changxing paid to find a way to find a foundation-building family with a second-order spiritual vein for help after he obtained the foundation establishment pill, and borrowed others to break through the second-order spiritual vein. Calculate like this. Not to mention that Mo's treasure pavilion earns 500 spirit stones every year. Even if he earns 1,000 spirit stones every year, Mo Changxing is not enough. Thinking of this, he paced anxiously in the cave. A long time. He raised his head, looked at Mo Yuqing and said, Have you talked to the Qin family? As long as they are willing to sell the magic weapon to us, Mo's treasure pavilion, are willing to buy it at the price of 50 spirit stones. Hearing this, Mo Yuqing shook his head. We've talked about it, but the old man of the Qin family doesn't know much about it, so he doesn't agree with it no matter what. Court death. Mo Chang waved his hand in anger, and the furnishing in the cave immediately turned to dust. Facing the anger of the patriarch, Mo Yuqing lowered his head. After a long while, Mo Yuqing raised his head, saw Mo Changxing's terrifying eyes, and his heart trembled slightly and said, Patriarch Yuqing thinks that we have to take a long-term view on this matter. How to take the long view? Mo Changxing scolded, Without the profits of Mo's treasure pavilion, I have little hope of building a foundation. My Mo family must have foundation-building cultivators. As if to hide his desire to build a foundation, and as if to convince Mo Yuqing that he was not selfish, Mo Changxing added this sentence. Hearing this, Mo Changxing was silent, wondering what he was thinking. Twin Lakes Island. Hongyin Feijin Factory. Is this method really feasible? After Qin Daoxian heard Qin Ziyan's idea, his eyes suddenly lit up, but he still had some doubts in his heart. He felt that he had always misunderstood Uncle 13, and always thought that the other party was conservative and outdated. He didn't expect Uncle 13 to be so courageous and dare to play this trick. If the Mo family and the 6 small families can't give up the interests of the Sangxiafeng city's magical instrument market, they will definitely take the bait. Qin Xianhe was confident and said with a smile, "In short, this method can be summed up in 2 words." With that said, Qin Xianhe raised a finger schemingly, "Take advantage of the situation. Take advantage of the situation. It's a good move to take advantage of the situation," Qin Daoxian muttered. "However, if this method is to be effective, there must be a premise, that is, to drive the Mo family and other magic weapon shops in the sanctuary city to a dead end." Forced to a dead end? Right? A dangerous light flashed in Qin Ziyan's eyes. If you don't drive them to a dead end, how could they ignore the decree of Qinyuan Jianzong and choose to take the risk? Hearing this, Qin Daoxian immediately refreshed his understanding of Uncle 13. Sure enough, the 13th uncle who dared to set foot on the battlefield of the Izumo kingdom at the 3rd level of qi refining, was by no means as harmless as he appeared on the surface. Perhaps. If it wasn't for the family drag, if Uncle 13 chose to be a loose cultivator, he might go further. Looking at Uncle 13's pale temples, Qin Daoxian couldn't help feeling emotional. Since we want to drive them to a dead end, we have to change the previous strategy of slow shipments and choose to ship in large quantities. In this way, it is imperative to expand the Feijin factory. Fortunately, at the beginning of the Dao, they have been able to skillfully refine the Red Shadow flying sword, and they are not afraid that no one will refine the flying sword after the factory expansion. Speaking of this, Qin Xianhe flushed with excitement. He knew that once this matter was done, the Qin family would go to a new level. It would no longer be a small family with no name, but a well-known craft refining family in the entire Guang'an prefecture. Chapter 75. The next month. With the assistance of Qin Xianhe and Qin Daoxian, the factory building of Hongyin Feijin Factory has been continuously expanded, and the production room has expanded from 5 to 30, a full 6-fold expansion. Hongyin Feijin Factory. Qin Daoxian looked at the neat and orderly production room in front of him, turned to look at Qin Liangyu beside him and said, "Director Qin, how are the apprenticeships in your factory trained? Will it not delay Feijin production?" Hearing this, Qin Liangyu immediately patted his chest and assured, "Patriarch, young patriarch, please rest your heart 10,000. For more than a year, I will follow the apprentice training system you mentioned, young patriarch, at least for the factory. Nearly 100 skilled furnace operators have been trained here, which can fully meet the expansion of the factory." Speaking of this, Qin Liangyu was full of regret. That is to say, there are not many members of my Qin family in the age group of 16 to 18 years old. Otherwise, there would be more furnace operators in our factory. Qin Daoxian, who is a peer of the same age, is naturally clear about the reason why Qin Liangyu said that there are not many people over the age of 16. In fact, it is not just that there are not many clansmen over the age of 16. To be precise, the monster disaster in Chongping County more than 10 years ago almost caused the Qin clan to fail. But at that time only one monk, Qin Xianhe, was guarding the entire Jianghu island, and it was inevitable that he could not take good care of it. Seeing the atmosphere at the scene is a little sad. Qin Daoxian patted Qin Liangyu on the shoulder and comforted, "All this is over, I promise the Qin family will never have the same situation that happened back then." Qin Liangyu nodded heavily. Feijin Factory has added 25 production rooms, and each production room is equipped with a filler, a furnace operator, and a furnace operator apprentice system. A total of 75 new workers are required. And now these workers are all in place, plus Qin Daochu and others. The complete production line has been laid. This has been more than a month. The busiest person is none other than Qin Daoxian. Because he has spent more than a month, he has hardly slept, and he has refined 25 giant Rongling furnaces, plus the original 5 Rongling furnaces in the Feijin factory. At present, the Hongyin Feijin factory has a total of 30 Rongling furnaces, one for each production room. Fortunately, the Rongling furnace assisted him in refining the silver moonstone, otherwise he would not have enough time to refine so many Rongling furnaces. Fortunately, all of this came to an end with the concerted efforts of everyone. Today is the first day of test production after the expansion of the Hongyin Feijin factory. As the director of the Hongyin Feijin factory, Qin Liangyi's burden is still very heavy. Because he had to arrange the working hours of the workers according to the time when Qin Daochu and the others refine the instruments. Fortunately, there is an example of Qin Daoxian. The follow-up production work only needs to copy Qin Daoxuan's production mode, and the only thing that needs to be bothered is the management of the workers. Because now the factory is not like it used to be, there are only a dozen workers. In the current Feijin factory, there are a full 90 people, even if not including the cultivators who make Feijin. If apprentices are added, this number will expand to more than 100 people. With so many people, it is not an easy task to manage well and maximize the production efficiency of the factory. After all, this is not the Earth, and Qin Liangyu is also the first-time director of the factory and everything is going on. If Qin Daoxian had not put forward a lot of constructive management suggestions, it is estimated that Qin Liangyu would still be at a loss as to how to manage it. So, one day of production work is over. Qin Daoxian finished refining the last flying sword in his hand. Looking at the Qin workers in the factory who clocked in and got off work, they walked into Qin Lianjia's office. Uncle 13. Seeing Qin Xianhe in Qin Lianjia's office, Qin Daoxian greeted with a smile. Qin Xianhe smiled and said, "Come here and see the production situation today." Hearing this, Qin Daoxian took the production record sheet handed over by Qin Liangyu. This kind of production record table was created by Qin Daoxian copying the production record table of his previous life. Qin Daoxian took over the form, and it was written on it that the number of Qiang Feijian produced today reached 27. Seeing Qin Daoxian frowning slightly, Qin Liangyu explained, "Because today is the first day of production for many workers, the improper operation has destroyed 2 furnaces of materials, and another flying sword was improperly refined by Qin Daozi, which led to the failure of the refining of the flying sword." Qin Daoxian knew clearly that the Qin Daozi mentioned by Qin Liangyu was the youngest of the many Qin family cultivators, and he was just over 8 years old this year. This has to be put in the previous life. Qin Daoxian used child labor illegally and he would have to go to prison. But in this life, no one thought there was anything wrong with what he did. Even Qin Daoxian himself felt that there was nothing wrong with what he did. Compared with the ancestors of the Qin family who sacrificed their lives, the environment for Qin Daochu to grow up is now countless times better. You don't have to go to the battlefield of Izumo and work hard, just produce Feijian in the Feijian factory with peace of mind, and you can have abundant resources to practice. This kind of treatment, not to mention compared with the Qin ancestors, is that if many children of the great clan knew about it, they would break their heads and want to come here to work. Because the Qin family treats the family monks very well. There is never a shortage of all the medicinal herbs to assist the practice. The supply of water spirit beads is constant, and the spiritual energy is sufficient. This training mode can only be enjoyed by the elite children of the big family. Even Qin Daoxian planned to buy Lingmi for the Qin family and the Mare people in Guang'an House next. It's okay to buy Lingmi for the Qin family cultivator, after all, the quantity is limited. To buy Lingmi for the merman, this is a big scale. The Qin family must have a certain strength or background to prevent outsiders from peeping. Just like the Hongyin Feijin shop was peeped at by other small families this time. What if the Zhou family opened the Hongyin Feijin store? Those little families in Sangxiafeng City, let alone peeping, might be so frightened that they shut down their shops overnight. This is the embodiment of family power. And the best way to reflect the power of the family is the power of the family. But the Qin family now lacks family strength. If it wasn't for the peeping at the Hongyin Feijin store this time, Qin Xinhe would not have thought of this method to kill the chickens and set an example for the Qin family. In fact, Qin Daoxian also knew in his heart that in Wan Xinghai, no force could become stronger by blindly growing. Because as long as you develop, you will inevitably touch the interests of other forces. Even if it does not touch the interests of other forces, it will attract the jealousy of other forces. In the face of this situation, the Qin family could only fight back fiercely, killing and maiming the pretender and publicizing it, so as to ensure that they would not suffer more prying eyes. Next, for a whole month, the Feijian factory was fully powered and entered into a frantic production rhythm. Every day 27 or 8 flying swords are produced. After half a month, when everyone was almost running in, the scrap rate of Feijian suddenly dropped to 0, that is to say 30 Feijian were produced every day. In 1 month, the Hongyin Feijian factory produced nearly 900 Feijian, and the production capacity has skyrocketed. Chapter 76. Jianghu Island Port. Do you remember what I told you? Qin Daoxian looked at Qin Daochu and others who came to see him and Qin Xinhe off and warned. Remember? Qin Daochu and the others nodded quickly. After arranging the family monks, Qin Daoxian looked at Qin Liangyu and Qin Beiwang again. The production work of the factory and the construction of the school in Chongping County will be handed over to you. Qin Liangyu and Qin Beiwang looked at each other and said, Please rest assured, the patriarch and the young patriarch, we will definitely live up to our mission. Qin Daoxian nodded, then waved his hand, Go back. After a stick of incense. Standing on the deck of the Tsangyun, watching the gradually blurred figures of everyone on the dock, Qin Daoxian couldn't help but feel a trace of reluctance in his heart. After more than a year he will set foot in Guang'an again. It's just that this trip to Guang'an is not a simple matter of purchasing materials and delivering goods. Is to remove obstacles on the way forward for his Qin family. Seemed to think that Qin Daoxian was worried, and Qin Xianhe, who was standing beside him, patted him on the shoulder and said with relief, "Don't worry, although this move has certain risks, it is not a big risk. If the operation is done well, my Qin family will not only be able to survive this crisis, but also the future development will be smooth sailing." "I'm not worried," Qin Daoxian shook his head. "I think it's the Mo family who should be worried," said he. Gently rubbed the storage bag around his waist. In the storage bag, Fei Xue and Qingying were lying quietly, as if they sensed the master's intention, and let out a soft sound. "Ha ha." Seeing Qin Daoxian's confident look, Qin Xianhe laughed out loud. "Well said. Why are we worried? We should ask him if the Mo family is afraid of us." After finishing speaking, a cold light flashed in Qin Ziyan's eyes. Guang'an Prefecture, Xianqing. After a month, the two set foot on the vast Lingbei Island again. On this trip to Guang'an, the two of them have already been familiar with each other. Back at the store, carrying a huge number of flying swords, Qin Xianhe and Qin Daoxian were both waiting for a big fight. But before that they have one more thing to do. This is also a key step for Qin Xianhe to take advantage of the situation. Otherwise, even if the Qin family repelled the Mo family, there would still be other small families coveting the magic weapon market in Sangxiafeng City. Therefore, compared to subduing a few small families in the sanctuary artifact market, what the Qin family has to do this time is to talk about tiger skin. The next day, Guang'anfu Core Business District, Suiyu Building. Kuilu is the most high-end restaurant in the Core Business District, and the ingredients here are all the best in Guang'an Prefecture. Having a meal here, even an ordinary foundation establishment cultivator would have suffered for a long time. However, today Qin Xianhe entertained an important guest here. The entrance of Suiyu Building. Qin Daoxian and Qin Xianhe stood side by side, waiting for the arrival of a big man. "Uncle 13, how did you meet this Zhou family patrol deacon?" Hearing this, Qin Xianhe paused. "To be precise, I don't know him, but his son." "His son?" Qin Daoxian frowned. "Yes." Qin Xianhe rubbed his hands with a smile. "In Guang'an Prefecture, sometimes money is better than strength." Qin Daoxian shook his head. "I still can't believe it. How could a dignified foundation building cultivator accept our banquet?" Qin Xianhe smiled and said nothing. He can't say that he has a first-rank high-grade craftsman in his family, and he admires this senior very much, right? Ordinary chi refiners are naturally not in the eyes of senior foundation builders, but an artifact refiner is different. Even if he didn't use a first-order crafter, he still didn't have a few juniors. Maybe it will be useful to the other party in the future? Besides, Qin Ziyan's trip was to give gifts to the other party and flatter the other party. There is no reason why this foundation establishment cultivator would not accept it. Waited for a stick of incense. Just when the two of them were waiting anxiously, the guest Qin Xianhe was waiting for finally arrived. Treading the cloud beast on the beast car. The two monks got out of the car one after the other. The older one, wearing the casual clothes of the Zhou family patrol team, looked quite cool. This monk looks at his age, about 40 years old, his face is sturdy, he walks with dragon and tiger steps, and when he looks forward he is cold and murderous, and it is terrifying. Qin Xianhe saw at a glance that this person must have been on the battlefield of Izumo. Qin Xianhe is all too familiar with the aura of a battlefield sergeant. This is the Zhou family foundation establishment cultivator that Qin Xianhe wants to entertain, Zhou Muqing, in terms of seniority the same name as Zhou Mubai. The young man behind Zhou Muqing was his son Zhou Xiaoyang. It is precisely because of the constant bribery and befriending this person for more than a year that Qin Xianhe was able to invite this big man behind the other party today. Fellow Taoist Zhou. Qin Xianhe quickly stepped forward, cupped his hands and greeted Zhou Xiaoyang, but looked at Zhou Muqing who was beside him, and then looked at Zhou Xiaoyang with expectant eyes. "See you." Zhou Xiaoyang proudly introduced. "This is my father. What about the first-order high-grade craftsman of your family that you mentioned earlier?" Hearing the words, Qin Xianhe quickly greeted Qin Daoxian behind him. "Daoxian, don't come to see Senior Zhou." Qin Daoxian did not dare to neglect. Walked forward in 3 or 2 steps, bowed his hands to Zhou Muqing and said, "Junior Qin Daoxian, see Senior Zhou. Are you the Qin family's first-rank top-grade craftsman?" Zhou Muqing's voice was a bit harsh. It sounded like a metal collision which made people feel uncomfortable. "It's the younger generation." Hearing this answer, Zhou Muqing was quite surprised. He originally thought that even if the Qin family had a first-order weapon refiner, they should be a very old cultivator in the qi refining stage. This made him suddenly interested in this Qin family. Fellow Taoist Zhou, Senior Zhou, let's go inside and eat and chat. I have prepared a banquet for the two of you, and I'd like to invite the two of you to enjoy them. Hearing this, Zhou Muqing nodded non-committally. Qin Xinhe quickly led the way forward. Wait until everyone is seated in the box of Tsueyu building. A few rounds of spirit wine and delicious food. Everyone finally got to know each other a little. Qin Xinhe. The younger generation is here. Qin Xinhe lowered his body and responded respectfully. I heard that your Qin family has been selling first-order low-grade magic tools in the Sangxiafeng market for the past year. Do you have so many artifact refiners in your family? Heard this question. Qin Xian's hand holding the wine glass trembled slightly, his eyes turned red, and he couldn't help covering his face and weeping. Seeing this scene, Qin Daoxian on the side couldn't help but stunned. He never imagined that Uncle 13 still has this ability, and his acting skills are also very good. Senior, you don't know something. Qin Xinhe wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes and said with red eyes, I, a cultivator of the Qin family, a person with poor aptitude, will automatically give up his practice when he reaches the third level of qi refining, and specialize in refining flying swords for the family. Because they only concentrate on learning one method of refining magic weapons, they can train such a magician in a few years. Hearing this explanation, Zhou Muqing was suddenly moved. What do you mean, you cultivators of the Qin family gave up your practice and concentrated on refining weapons to earn spirit stones for your family? Exactly, said. Tears flowed in Qin Xian's eyes again. Pity my Qin family's children who sacrificed so much for the family shop is still coveted by wicked people in Sangxiafeng City. How unreasonable. This is Guang'an Mansion, how can such wicked people be allowed to be presumptuous? Zhou Muqing hadn't spoken yet, but his son Zhou Xiliang was filled with righteous indignation first. Zhou Muqing glanced at his son, and immediately, Zhou Xiliang shrank his neck, drank a glass of spirit wine in embarrassment, and dared not speak again. Qin Daoxian was completely stunned at this moment. Qin Xian's acting skills are really good. If he hadn't understood the real situation, I would now wonder if the Qin family cultivator was really so miserable. For the sake of the family, he gave up his practice and concentrated on earning spiritual stones for the family. According to Qin Xian's statement, every spiritual stone earned by the Qin family was exchanged for the path of a cultivator within the clan, which was indeed miserable. Zhou Muqing nodded. The behavior of the Qin family cultivator is indeed admirable. As for the villain you call, as long as fellow Taoists stay in Guang'an Mansion for one day, my Zhou family will guarantee that your Qin family shop will be safe for one day. Hearing this, Qin Xinhe became anxious. He didn't want this guarantee. Even if the Mo family and the others lose their minds, it is impossible for them to start operations in Guang'an Mansion. What he wanted was for Zhou Muqing to be able to contribute to the passage from Jianghu Island to Guang'an Prefecture. As the deacon of the Zhou family patrol, Zhou Muqing's power is actually very great, because he is in charge of a spirit void battleship. As long as Zhou Muqing can cooperate with the Qin family, Qin Xinhe can set up a bureau and put all the people of the Mo family in. Not only that. After this incident, he only needs to publicize this incident, and he will be able to rip the tiger's skin off Zhou's family. At least, until outsiders didn't know the relationship between the Qin family and the Zhou family, they didn't dare to do anything to the Qin family. And this time is precisely the growth time that the Qin family needs most. The Qin family has just given birth to nearly 10,000 newborns. When this group of children grow up, the Qin family will send another foundation-building cultivator. Even if the Qin family has a firm foothold in Guang'an Prefecture. In order to do all this, the Qin family must have enough spiritual stones and even personal connections. Because you need spiritual stones to buy foundation establishment pills, you need to use the second-order spiritual veins to break through the foundation establishment period. One way or another. During this time, the Qin family needs to find a backer, even if this backer is not real. This is what Qin Xinhe said by taking advantage of the situation. Chapter 77. Hearing Zhou Muqing's high-sounding remarks, Qin Xinhe kept saying yes, and he praised how stable and prosperous Guang'an Prefecture was under the Zhou family's governance. Immediately afterwards, Qin Xian's old face collapsed again. Oh, what a pity. What's the pity for fellow Taoist Qin? Zhou Muqing drank a glass of spirit wine and said calmly. It's a pity that in the battle of Zhenengwan 50 years ago my Qin family killed 12 monks so that the monks in the family withered. Who knows? Before Qin Xinhe finished speaking, Zhou Muqing put the wine glass on the table, stared at Qin Xinhe intently and said, "Your Qin family is you live from the Battle of Zenangwan. Could it be senior?" Qin Xinhe looked up at the other party, surprised. Zhou Muqing nodded, his tone softened a little and said in a low voice, "I was in Zenangwan back then." Hear this. Qin Xinhe stood up suddenly, clenched his right fist and hammered his chest, gave a military salute to the other party and said solemnly, "Qin Xinhe, the soldier of Zenangwan, I have seen the elder of the pawn." Hearing this familiar name, Zhou Muqing couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. That battle was really bad. As the largest clan in Guang'an Prefecture, the Zhou family suffered great losses in this battle. As far as Zhou Muqing knew, the younger brother of Zhou Mubai, the young patriarch of the Zhou family, was damaged in this battle that year. As you can imagine, how much the Zhou family hates the Yi family. Now that he heard that Qin Xinhe was actually a sergeant who survived the Battle of Zenangwan, Zhou Muqing was able to get close to him. Qin Daoxian clearly felt that the sense of estrangement between Zhou Muqing and Chen's uncle and nephew gradually disappeared. When he talked to Qin Xinhe, he no longer held a high shelf. Occasionally chat about some interesting stories of the two serving in Zenangwan, and they will laugh. Qin Daoxian was a little confused at the moment. He didn't know whether his 13th uncle was showing his true feelings or acting. If this is also acting, then Qin Xian's acting skills are terrible. "Brother Qin," Zhou Muqing waved his hand and said with a blushing face, "I didn't expect the two of us to have such a fate. Since you and I used to be sergeants of Zenangwan, you don't need to be around the bush when you talk about it. If you have something, please speak bluntly." Hear this. Qin Xinhe was ecstatic. He cupped his hands and said, "Brother Zhou, to be honest, I do have something to ask for." Then Qin Xinhe described the difficulties faced by the Qin family to the other party in detail. Who knows that Zhou Muqing's face flushed with anger after hearing Qin Xian's words. "These soft don't dare to fight on the battlefield of Iron Kingdom, but they dare to rob your Qin family's cargo ship." Zhou Muqing was obviously a little drunk. "Brother Qin, don't worry if the Mo family doesn't come, don't worry if they really dare to kill you halfway, I will report it to Qinyuan Jianzong, and take his Mo family and destroy the family." These words Zhou Muqing said murderously. Even Qin Daoxian on the side felt a chill. Hearing this assurance, Qin Xinhe was overjoyed and hurriedly said, "It's all up to Brother Zhou to help." "Well, come on, do it." "Okay, do it." The two drank. After drinking this glass of wine, Qin Xinhe gave Qin Daoxian a wink. Qin Daoxian understood, quietly took out a jade box from the storage bag, and smiled at Zhou Xiliang next to him. "Brother Zhou, you and I hit it off. I bought a little gadget not long ago and I asked Brother Zhou to accept it with a smile." "What?" Zhou Xiliang was listening to his father and Qin Xian, who often bribes him, calling him brothers and sisters 1 second before, and the next second he was giving gifts in public, so he couldn't help feeling a little overwhelmed. "Brother Qin, what do you mean?" Zhou Muqing put down the wine glass, straightened his face and made a dissatisfied expression. "Brother Zhou, it's a good thing that your children and I are willing to get close, isn't it?" Zhou Xiliang looked at his father eagerly, and when he nodded, he couldn't wait to take the jade box. Seeing his son's unpromising appearance, Zhou Muqing felt a little dissatisfied in his heart. Fortunately, Zhou Xiqing finally did not open the jade box in public, which saved him a bit of face. This feast, the two sides drank for more than 2 hours and then gave up. Zhou Muqing and Qin Xinhe chatted a lot about Zenangwan's past, and the two also had a taste of seeing each other late. After leaving, Zhou Muqing and his son were walking on the streets of the core business district in a cloud-treading beast car. Looking at the moonlit night sky outside the car, Zhou Xiliang couldn't hold back his curiosity. He quickly took out the jade box Qin Daoxian gave him from the storage bag, and unlocked the restriction on the jade box. As the jade box was opened, aura flashed in the car. Such a big handwriting. Seeing the treasure in the jade box, Zhou Xiliang immediately exclaimed. Zhou Muqing heard the sound and looked over, and his pupils shrank slightly. What is in this jade box is a small gift for Zhou Xiliang. It is clearly a big gift for him, Zhou Muqing. Inside the jade box, 10 water spirit beads lay quietly inside, 5 second-order water spirit beads, and 5 first-order water spirit beads. The 5 first-order water spirit beads are estimated to be gifts for Zhou Xiliang, but for Zhou Muqing they are of little value. But the value of 5 second-order water spirit beads is amazing. The last time Qin Daoxian went to Zhou's auction house, the starting price for a second-order water spirit bead was 1,000 spirit stones. If these 5 water spirit beads were taken to the auction house, They could be sold for more than 6,000 spirit stones. Even if Zhou Muqing could buy it at the family's internal price, it would cost 5,000 spirit stones. Even for him, a late foundation-building cultivator, this gift is not invaluable. Think for a moment. Zhou Muqing could know that in order to give this gift, the Chen family might have taken out all their family members. You must know that the profits of first-order low-grade magic tools are extremely low. Those special craftsmen of the Chen family don't know how long it takes to earn so much profit. Thinking of this, he felt better about Chen Xianhe in his heart. The clan is united, the patriarch has courage, and there is an excellent junior like Chen Daoxian. Zhou Muqing had a hunch that if the Chen family could survive this disaster, there would be a place for his Chen family in Guang'an Prefecture in the future. Think of this. He took 5 second-order water spirit beads from the jade box, put them in his storage bag and said, "These 5 water spirit beads belong to the father." Hearing this, Zhou Siqing's young face suddenly collapsed. See him like this. Zhou Muqing shook his head, threw a storage bag over and said with a smile, "Okay, there are 1,000 spirit stones in it, why don't I buy yours?" After speaking, he warned again, "You have to save some flowers, you know? Don't know how to run to the hook bar all day long." After speaking, he fondly rubbed his son's head. "Okay. I see, thank you, Dad." Zhou Siqing happily accepted 1,000 spirit stones and said happily. He dealt with this on his lips, but in his heart he thought that he should find a few good brothers of his own to spend a good time tomorrow. Chen Xianhe and Chen Daoxian returned to the Hongyin Feijin store. The two looked at each other and breathed a sigh of relief, and then the two laughed. It's done. Chen Xianhe did not expect that he was so lucky to meet a colleague from Zhenangwen 50 years ago. Chen Daoxian nodded heavily, and the big stone that was pressing on his heart was completely put down. With Zhou Muqing's help, the Imo family can't come if they don't come. If they dare to come, they will die without a burial. Laugh for a while. Chen Xianhe restrained his laughter and said coldly, "The next step is to let the Imo family get into the game we arranged." "Uncle 13, what are you going to do?" "You listen to me." Chapter 78. It was the second day after Chen Xianhe and Zhou Muqing reached a deal. The Hongyin Feijin shop in Sangxiafeng City has suddenly increased the number of Feijin sales. Over the past year or so, the Hongyin Feijin store only selects one lucky buyer every day to purchase the store's Feijin. Hunger marketing has been working for more than a year. But it's not enough to greedy the loose cultivators in the loose cultivator market who couldn't buy flying swords. But today, the Hongyin Feijin store has changed from normal. They wantonly sell goods in the scattered repair shop market, and all the magic tools sold are the same style of first-order low-grade flying swords. Compared with other magic weapon shops in Sangxiafeng City, the only advantage of Hongyin Feijin shop is that their Feijin is all new, not second-hand. This is simply too tempting for loose cultivators who have no channels to buy low-level magical tools. Every day when the store is open, the Hongyin Feijin shop is always surrounded by loose cultivators. It's even more exaggerated than when the lottery was originally drawn. When the Chen family's uncle and nephew saw this scene, they had to urgently adjust their sales strategy. Although they brought more than 1,500 flying swords on this trip. But at this rate, it is estimated that it will be sold out in 3 days. They wantonly sell it to force the Imo family and other small families, not simply to sell flying swords. At this point, both of them are very awake. Just after Chen Xianhe changed the supply of Feijin to 50 per day, the frenzy of the loose cultivators not only did not ease. Instead, it got crazier over time. However, the uncle and nephew of the Chen family wanted the fanaticism of the loose cultivators. The more fanatical they are, the more bleak the business of other magic weapon shops in Sangxiafeng City will be. As a result, the small family headed by the Imo family couldn't help but want to attack the Chen family. Really. It was on the 10th day when the Hongyin Feijin shop went out to sell. The Imo family finally couldn't bear it anymore and took the initiative to come to the door. Hongyin Feijin shop. After a day's business, Chen Xianhe and Chen Daoxian were about to close their doors. At this moment, 3 monks dressed in luxurious clothes took the initiative to come to the door. The leader was a cultivator in his early 50s. He looked energetic and his whole body revealed a harmonious charm. The two behind him, one of whom was in his early 30s with a white face and no beard, were dressed in purple Taoist robes, and their cultivation had reached the 9th level of qi refining. The other, who seemed to be a loose cultivator, was wrapped in black robes and could not see clearly. These 3 people are the head of the Imo family, Imo Changxing, and the cultivator of the Imo family, Imo Yuqing, and a loose cultivator they found. Chen Xianhe didn't know Imo Changxing, but he was very impressed with Mo Yuqing, the man behind him who once said he would buy their store Feijian. It's you. Qin Xinhe recognized the other party at a glance and said vigilantly, "What do you want?" Young Daoist Qin, right? Without waiting for Mo Yuqing to speak, the head of the Mo clan took the lead and said, "Introduce myself first, I am the Mo clan head, Mo Changxing. You must have heard of Mo's Treasures Pavilion, fellow Daoist Qin? It's my Mo's property." Qin Xinhe nodded slowly. "I've heard of it, but I don't know what your friend is here for. If it's the same thing last time, I advise fellow Daoists not to waste your time. My Qin family will never hand over the sales channels to others." Hearing this, Mo Changxing's face changed at first, but then he calmed down again and said with a smile, "Fellow Daoist Qin, you and I are both members of the Guang'an House Qi Refining Clan, and we should be watching and helping each other, so why be so aggressive?" "Am I being aggressive?" Qin Xinhe laughed angrily at his words. "I don't know who made it clear last time that he wanted to forcibly buy my Chen's Feijin shop. Let me ask, is it your Mo family being aggressive or my Qin family being aggressive?" Hearing this, Mo Changxing smiled and said, "It's all members of my Mo family who are ignorant. I am here to apologize to fellow Daoist Qin for him." Having said that, Mo Changxing gave Qin Xinhe a deep bow. "Humph." Qin Xinhe tilted his head. "Since the misunderstanding between us has been eliminated, let's talk about new cooperation. What do you think about fellow Daoist Qin?" "What do you want to talk about?" Qin Xinhe wondered. "Friend Qin, can you take a step to speak?" "Okay." Qin Xinhe thought about it, winked at Qin Daoxian and nodded in agreement. The two entered the store and sat opposite each other. After serving Mo Changxing tea, Qin Xinhe opened his mouth and said, "I don't know what the cooperation mentioned by Daoyu Mo is referring to?" "Yes." Mo Changxing smiled and said, "What do you think about the low-end magic weapon market in Sangxiafang City, Guang'an Prefecture?" "Very expansive." Qin Xinhe thought about it. "That's right." Mo Changxing clapped his palm and agreed, "My Mo family thinks so too. However, why don't my fellow practitioners in the Sangxiafang City buy many magical implements every year in my other magical implement shops?" Before waiting for Qin Xinhe to answer, Mo Changxing took the initiative to say, "The reason is that the scattered practitioners in the scattered cultivator market do not look down on the second-hand magic tools in our hands. Daoyu Qin, you are different. You have an artifact refiner who can refine magic tools, while my Mo family has been rooted in the scattered workshop for more than 100 years and has a lot of sales experience and complex interpersonal relationships. You and I have joined forces, so why not make it bigger and stronger?" When Qin Xinhe heard this, he seemed a little moved. Qin Daoxian, who was on the side, scolded angrily, "Listening to what you mean, what's the difference between buying my Chen's Feijin shop? Are my Qin family all fools and can't even sell magic weapons?" "Yes." Qin Xinhe suddenly showed an expression of sudden realization. That expression seems to say, "I almost fell for your old boy." After finishing the matter, he gave Qin Daoxian a reassuring look. Seeing that Qin Xinhe was about to agree, but was disturbed by Qin Daoxian halfway through, Mo Chang's face was flushed with anger, and the anger he had been suppressing since entering the store could no longer be concealed. He gradually turned a cold face, glanced at Qin Daoxian and then said coldly, "If I remember correctly, your Chen's shop has always been the only one Qin Daoxian, right? Why is there an extra junior today?" Hearing this, Qin Xinhe immediately showed a stern expression and said, "What do you mean by that? I warn you, this is Guang'an Mansion, don't you mess around?" Saying that, he touched the storage bag with his right hand. It seems like he's about to strike out. Seeing his bluffing expression, Mo Changxing felt relieved. He smiled and said, "Fellow Daoist Chen has been thinking too much. This is Guang'an Mansion. How could I be fooling around?" Before Qin Xian could breathe a sigh of relief, Mo Changxing continued, "It's just. The journey from Guang'an Prefecture to your Chen's Shuanghu Island is a long one. It's hard to say whether there will be accidents along the way. Hear this threat." Qin Daoxuan's face flushed with anger and he shouted loudly, "Old man, you dare to threaten me? Who knows that Mo Changxing doesn't care about a cultivator on the 7th level of Qi refining in Qindaoxian district. In his eyes, although Qin Xinhe Xiuwei is one level lower, he is the one who is in charge of the Qin family. As for Qin Daoxian, he is a descendant of the Qin family and he is very happy and angry. It can be seen that his temperament is extremely poor, and it is difficult to become a great weapon." For his words, Mo Changxing didn't bother to answer at all. Hearing Mo Changxing's threat, Qin Xian's face was gloomy and uncertain. A long time. He raised his head and said firmly, "I believe that there is a patrol of the Zhou family, and your Mo family has not yet dared to attack our uncle and nephew." Hearing this, Mo Changxing stared at Qin Xinhe intently. Qin Xinhe looked at him without giving up. "A long time." Mo Changxing laughed, got up and said, "You don't need to mind Mo Mao's joking words, fellow Taoist Qin." After he finished speaking, he took the two monks behind him and turned to leave. "Until the Mo family goes away." Qin Daoxian closed the door, placed a soundproof formation and said with a smile, "Uncle 13, how was my performance just now?" "Too exaggerated," Qin Xinhe commented with a smile. Chapter 79. The two laughed for a while. Qin Xinhe said sternly, "I was still wondering why other small families didn't take action against our store, but the Mo family took the lead. At first I thought it was Mo's Treasure's Pavilion that was most affected by our shop, but now it seems that it is not the only reason." "Uncle 13, what do you mean?" Qin Xinhe nodded. "Just now the head of the Mo family, Mo Changxing, has reached the perfect state of qi refining, and it is obvious that the foundation is imminent. Moreover, he has reached the age where he has to build a foundation. If not, the Mo family would not be in such a hurry to attack us." Hearing this, Qin Daoxian thought about it carefully. This time the Mo family attacked the Qin family too hastily. It stands to reason that a family that has been inherited for hundreds of years, even a qi refining family, should not be so reckless. After all, the Qin family is also a qi refining family. Before the Mo family could fully understand the strength of the Qin family, they hurriedly took action, which seemed a little stunned. In this way there is only one reason, and that is that the Mo family can't wait. They can't wait to investigate whether the Qin family has a background, and can't wait to investigate the strength of the Qin family. In other words, they were sure that they were not afraid of the Qin family's revenge after the business of the Qin family's magic weapon shop was destroyed. What can give them this confidence is that the head of the Mo family, Mo Changxing, is about to build the foundation. The Mo family has a foundation-building cultivator in charge. As a new foundation-building family, it is naturally not afraid of revenge from a qi refining family like the Qin family on Jianghu Island. By the time, the weak Qin family had no choice but to break their teeth and swallow them. Speaking of which, Qin Xinhe smiled again. "If before I was only 50% sure that the Mo family would kill us on our way back, then now, I'm at least 90% sure. Mo Changxing will definitely take the bait." Qin Xinhe was decisive. Out of the Hongyin Feijian store, Mo Changxing had a livid face along the way and remained silent. Mo Yuqing and the black-robe loose cultivator did not dare to disturb him when they saw him like this. The atmosphere of the team was a little dull. Wait until everyone returns to Mo's treasure pavilion. After Mo Changxing instructed Mo Yuqing to close the door of the shop, everyone went upstairs to talk. "Friend Jia," Mo Changxing cupped his hands towards the black-robe loose cultivator, "I wonder if your spirit beast can remember the aura of the two of you, heard?" The black-robe loose cultivator took out a fluffy, pointed nose and short-tailed little beast from the spirit beast bag, and made a short and strange sound from his mouth, as if he was talking with the little one. "A long time." The black-robe loose cultivator raised his head. "Patriarch Mo, my little treasure told me that it has remembered the breath of the two people just now, within a radius of 5,000 miles, they don't want to escape the pursuit of the 1,000-mile tracker." "That's good." Mo Changxing nodded. "Don't worry, fellow Taoist Jia, after this is done, I promise you that the 1,000 spiritual stones will not be less than a penny." "Hey, of course I can trust Patriarch Mo." Hearing the promise of 1,000 spirit stones, Hei Pao Sanxiu immediately showed a hint of greed in his eyes. "See the black robe loose repair leave." Mo Yuqing took 2 steps forward and hesitated. "Patriarch, do you really want to give him 1,000 spiritual stones?" Hearing this, Mo Changxing glanced at him and then looked out the window. Intercepting a comrade is a serious crime of looting a family and annihilating a family. The reward for 1,000 spirit stones? Haha, in this world only dead people can keep secrets. Hearing this, Mo Yuqing was shocked. After Mo Changxing said these words, his face softened again and said, "Have you brought all the people I asked you to bring?" "The Patriarch, there are 17 monks in the clan at the late stage of qi refining and above, all of them are here." "Very good." Mo Changxing's eyes showed a killing intent. After the Qin family sells the magic weapon, they will definitely buy a large amount of spiritual ore and return to Jianghu Island to refine the flying sword. As long as they intercepted their cargo ship halfway, without this batch of spiritual ore, the Qin family would definitely be at a loss. And after we went to the black market to sell these batches of spiritual ores, there would be enough resources for me to build a foundation. At that time, how could my Mo family fear the revenge of a mere qi refining family? It seemed that he was comforting Mo Yuqing, and he seemed to be comforting himself, Mo Changxing muttered. Intercept the comrades. Once discovered in Wuxia, it is a big crime to loot and exterminate the family. Especially the Mo family's behavior of intercepting and killing comrades. If Qinyuan Jinzong didn't care about this kind of evil, then everyone would follow suit, and Wanxinghai would be in chaos long ago. Of course. Even with the control of Qinyuan Jinzong, there are still many loose cultivators who choose to take risks. It's just that it's rare for family cultivators to intercept others halfway. Because the cultivation resources possessed by family cultivators are much more superior than those of loose cultivators, they should not take risks. The scattered cultivators were different. They lacked cultivation resources and they had no worries about being alone. If they didn't do well, they would do something to kill their fellow practitioners. As for being discovered, the big deal is to run away. Anyway, they have no spiritual veins, and they are not burdened by ordinary clansmen. With storage bags on their shoulders, the world is home. Back then, the Sun brothers who set up the trap of the Immortal Mansion and prepared to kill Qin Daoxian were typical representatives of this type of loose cultivator. Of course. With the high-pressure policy of the Qinyuan sword sect and the battlefield opened up by the Izumo kingdom for loose cultivators to obtain cultivation resources, there are fewer and fewer loose cultivators who kill their fellow practitioners in Wuxia. Because they found out. The risks and rewards of killing fellows are not proportional. It's easy to kill a loose cultivator, but the loose cultivator is often more than a clean face, and it doesn't gain much if he kills it, but it makes a fuss. And intercepting the family's children, the risk is much greater. Who knows what kind of cards the children of the family hold in their hands? If it doesn't work, the boat will capsize and it's not certain who kills who. This kind of loose cultivator intercepts and kills fellow practitioners only to seek money, not to seek death. After weighing the pros and cons, it is better to go to the battlefield of Izumo to fight for a future. This is also an important reason why the Sun brothers gave up killing Qin Daoxian and chose to go to the battlefield of Izumo. The next few days, there was a strange scene in the magic weapon market in Sangxiafang City. The magic tools in the Hongyin Feijin store are in short supply, while other magic tool stores opened by loose cultivators or small families are very busy. But everyone didn't make any statement, and seemed to be waiting for an early bird to break the deadlock. However, everyone is unwilling to be this early bird. Or they know that someone is already in the early stage. Just 1 month. Hongyin Feijin shop sold Feijin crazily, and finally sold 1,500 Feijin within a month. This time, the Hongyin Feijin shop was completely popular among the scattered cultivators at the bottom of Sangxiafang City. It can be said that it has reached the point where no one knows it. The big family turned a blind eye to this scene, while the small family in Guang'an Mansion and some shallow foundation-building families began to inquire about the origin of the Qin family on Jianghu Island. To this scene, Qin Xinhe and Qin Daoxian had expected it. Since the low-key sale of Feijin is still coveted by others, it is completely high-profile. It's just that at the same time of high profile, the Qin family must kill the chickens to show the monkeys and establish a prestige. And the Mo family who jumped out actively was the chicken selected by the Chen family. Chapter 80. Guang'an Port. Watching a truckload of spiritual or transporting the Shang Tsanglong cargo ship, Qin Daoxian frowned and said, "Uncle 13, do you think the Mo family will be fooled?" When things came to an end, Qin Daoxian would inevitably worry about gains and losses. The Qin family was so painstakingly arranged that if the Mo family didn't come, they would have nothing to draw water from the bamboo basket. Qin Xinhe was much more confident. He patted Qin Daoxian on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Don't worry, they will definitely come. You are still young and you don't understand the desire of a qi refining cultivator who is nearly 60 years old." Qin Xinhe still had something to say. At the beginning he had also been so eager or desperate. Qin Daoxian's aptitude is amazing, and the Qin family has no shortage of resources now. For him, building a foundation in the future is a sure thing. Of course he couldn't understand how desperate and crazy those people who couldn't build a foundation, or who were just one step away from building a foundation, would be. Southwest waters of Wuxia. A fleet sailed on the rippling sea. In addition to the supplies purchased by the Qin family, the Zhangyun led by also carried a new batch of female slaves from Izumo. It's just that the female slaves of the Izumo country bought this time are far less than the first time Qin Daoxian bought. The reason? It's not that the Qin family has no money to buy it, but that the young female slaves in Guang'an Prefecture are almost sold out. In addition, the resource transport ships on the front line did not come. The price of young female slaves in Guang'an Prefecture has remained high during this period, and it has even reached the terrifying price of 2 spirit stones apiece. With such an expensive price, the Chen family is naturally unwilling to be taken advantage of. In addition, the young and beautiful female slaves have basically been selected, and Qin Daoxian only purchased more than 1,000 female slaves from the Izumo country this time. I have to say, for more than a year. The ordinary male clan of the Chen family on Jianghu Island has been in happiness and pain. In the beginning they felt happy and then they became a little miserable. Qin Daoxian found more than once that when the adult men in the clan usually walked, many of them covered their waists with their hands. The two stood on the deck of the Zhangyun. Qin Xinhe glanced at the cabin behind him and hesitated. Daoxian, are we going to suspend the purchase of female slaves from the Izumo country? If this goes on, I'm afraid the clan's body won't be able to support it. Qin Xinhe persuaded while stroking his beard. Hearing this, Qin Xinhe glanced at the cabin and said coldly, "It doesn't matter, I bought a lot of supplements for the clan this time, it will be fine." Hearing this, Qin Xinhe almost broke his beard. He is a little fortunate now that he is a monk, not an ordinary Qin clan. While the two were chatting, ahead, a huge ship faintly approached them. The speed of this giant ship was so fast that it only took half a cup of tea to approach the Qin family's fleet. Chen's uncle and nephew ordered the fleet to avoid. Who knows that the other party seems to have identified the Qin family's fleet, and is determined to force the Qin family's fleet over. See this scene. Qin Daoxian and Qin Xinhe had a faint guess in their hearts. The two of them were swept away. As expected, he found that there were 20 chi refining cultivators on the other side's boat. Also, except for the black-robed loose cultivator, everyone else's cultivation was in the late stage of chi refining. In other words, among these Mo family cultivators, even the worst one had reached the 7th level of chi refining. Why did the Mo family run in front of us? Qin Daoxian looked at Qin Xinhe puzzled. Qin Xinhe shook his head and said solemnly, "There are many strange ways of tracking in the cultivation world. It is not surprising that they can wait for us halfway." Obviously, Qin Xinhe has seen some wonderful tracking methods. After saying that, he warned again, "Be careful later, beware that the Mo family cultivator's dog jumps over the wall and hurts you." Hearing this, Qin Daoxian pursed his lips. He is not worried that the other party will hurt him. To be honest, Qin Daoxian himself is a little confused about how strong he is now. But there is one thing he can be sure of, that is, his strength is absolutely invincible among the cultivators in the chi refining period. Practice till now. Qin Daoxian only learned 2 swordsmanships in total, wind-chasing swordsmanship, and rain-covering swordsmanship. In general, when the outer disciples of Qinyuan sword sect are in the chi refining period, they must cultivate one of the first-order sword arts such as wind-chasing sword art and rain-covering sword art to the realm of mastery, in order to be considered qualified. And inner disciples, in addition to the spiritual root requirements, must cultivate 2 or more first-order sword arts to the realm of great achievement. In other words, even the Qinyuan sword sect would not force the inner disciple to cultivate the first-order sword art to the perfect state, because this requirement is too difficult for disciples in the chi refining stage. If there is any inner disciple who cultivates the first-order sword art to the perfect state during the chi refining period, he will become a candidate for the Qinyuan sword sect in an instant. As long as you advance to foundation establishment and comprehend sword intent, you will be able to rank as a direct disciple. Zhou Mubai of Guang'an House, if he was born in Qinyuan sword sect, he should be able to become a direct disciple. Qin Daoxian completed his wind-chasing sword art in 3 months, and then spent another 3 months completing his rain-covering sword art. After a full 4 months, I was stuck on the fusion of wind-chasing sword art and rain-covering sword art. Until a year ago, Guanhating realized the Tao, comprehended the profound meaning of chasing the wind and covering the rain sword art, and from then on, the level of Kendo entered a new world. Since then, a full year, Qin Daoxian practiced on Jianghu Island every day, and had an epiphany every 10 days. Every time he had an epiphany, his Kendo level improved. After a year of epiphany, Qin Daoxian didn't know what his current Kendo realm had reached. He only knew that if the current self was against the self from a year ago, he could instantly kill him with a single sword. He faintly sensed that his Kendo realm was in front of a new threshold again. If you cross the past, it will be a whole new world. How about this? There are no ancestors left in the Qin family to guide him. He didn't even know how to divide the realm of Kendo. He only knew that Zhou Mubai realized the sword intent during the foundation building period and became a sword cultivator. Sword intent should be a description of the realm of Kendo. Chen Daoxian didn't know if he understood the sword intent or not, whether he was a sword cultivator or not. However, according to the rumors, he should not have comprehended the sword intent. Because in the legend, after comprehending the meaning of the sword, the monk will thoroughly temper the monk's true essence, transforming the true essence into the invincible sword essence. This is also the reason why the sword cultivator is the first in the same rank to attack, and can even fight beyond the ranks. Contemplation. The other party's ship had stopped not far in front of the Chen family's fleet. See you. The Chen family also had to stop the fleet and wait here. Next moment, 20 monks rose into the sky, rode against the wind, and flew towards the Chen family fleet. The one headed by was the head of the Mo family, Mo Changxing, whom the two had only met 20 days ago. At this moment, Mo Changxing was looking down at Chen's uncle and nephew with a sneer on the corner of his mouth and said, "We haven't seen you for a few days, are the two fellow Taoists safe?" Chapter 81. See this scene. Chen Xianhe and Chen Daoxian looked at each other with a faint smile on the corners of their mouths. Chen Xianhe took a step forward and reasoned with Mo Changxing, "What is the purpose of Mo Daoyu stopping my uncle and nephew?" Behind. Chen Daoxian secretly held a lavender shadow stone in his hand to record the evidence. "Ha ha," Mo Changxing laughed wildly, "Chen Xianhe, don't talk nonsense. Today I will ask you one last time, Chen's magic weapon shop, will you hand it over?" Hear this straightforward threat. Chen Xian's face turned pale and he said nervously, "Taoist friend Mo, don't make a mistake, I warn you, I have already notified the Zhou family's patrol fleet that they are on their way. You have to think about it clearly, intercepting and killing your comrades is a serious crime of raiding your family and destroying your family. Do you want your Mo family to be raided and wiped out?" Hearing the 4 words of slaughtering the family and exterminating the family, Mo Changxing's eyes faintly revealed a trace of fear. Obviously, intercepting Chen Xian's uncle and nephew halfway, he was also under a lot of psychological pressure. After all, for every cultivator living in Wangxinghai, the prestige of Qinyuan sword sect is too great. Be stubborn, court death. Mo Changxing felt a little uneasy in his heart, and immediately ordered the Mo family cultivator behind him, "Go!" Heard. The Mo family cultivators dispersed immediately and surrounded Chen Xian's uncle and nephew's Cangyun number. This time, Chen Xian's uncle and nephew really had no way to go to heaven and could not escape when they went to sea. Seeing that Chen Xianhe wanted to speak, Chen Daoxian stepped forward and said with a smile, "Uncle 13, I have recorded the evidence." Saying that, he raised the shadow stone in his hand. Hearing this, Chen Xianhe, who was going to perform again, suddenly shut up and instructed, "Be careful with everything, the Zhou family should be nearby, you just need to hold them for a while." "Uncle 13, you can rest assured," Chen Daoxian said and took out Feishua Qingying Erjian from the storage bag. High in the air, a spirit void battleship is hidden in the clouds. Inside the Lingshu battleship, in front of Zhou Muqing, he performed a circular mirror technique. Inside the mirror, at the moment, the screen of the Mo family cultivator intercepting the Chen family uncle and nephew is playing. Seeing this, Zhou Muqing's face turned cold and he ordered, "Let's go down." "Yes, Lord Deacon." On the sea. After the Mo family surrounded Chen's uncle and nephew, they took out the magical instruments from the storage bags one after another. Looking at the styles of their magical instruments, most of them used flying swords. Only less than 3 people used other styles of magic weapons. "Kill?" Mo Changxing shouted and took the lead in killing Chen Daoxian. But next second, within a radius of 100 zhang, the sea suddenly started to rain, causing Mo Changxing to be stunned for a moment. Just as he was stunned, a miserable cry entered his ears. "Ah, my hand." When Mo Changxing heard the sound, he saw a cultivator of the 7th level of Qi refining in his Mo family, clutching his broken right hand and screaming in midair, his entire body shaky. The severe pain even made it very difficult for him to maintain the wind control technique. This rain. Mo Changxing's pupils shrank slightly. "Not good. It's sword energy." Seeing this, he immediately exclaimed, "This rain is sword energy, everyone use the defensive amulet." After a big drink, Mo Changxing first took out a golden talisman and activated it. Immediately, a golden light enveloped Mo Changxing, making him feel a sense of security. The Golden Shield Talisman is a first-order high-grade spiritual talisman, which contains a defensive spell called the Golden Shield Technique. Among all the first-order spells, the Golden Shield Technique ranks among the best in defense, and it is nearly twice as strong as the ice talisman in Qin Daoxuan's hand. Generally speaking, after the cultivator used the golden shield, even a 9th-level qi refining cultivator would not be able to use it for a while. But Mo Changxing was horrified to find out. The spherical golden cover constructed by the golden cover technique has become precarious under the erosion of the rain sword energy, and it seems that it will be torn apart by the opponent in the next second. Qin Daoxian saw that they had discovered the secret of the rain sword qi, so he simply stopped attacking, and went all out to display the chasing the wind and covering the rain sword art. In an instant, the 7 cultivators of the Mo family in the late stage of qi refining were beheaded by him on the spot. Dye the sea water red. But at the moment, Mo Changxing didn't care about him at all. He couldn't even protect himself at the moment. Looking at the crumbling golden shield technique, Mo Changxing swayed his heart, sacrificed the flying sword, and killed Qin Daoxian. He knew that the only way to break the game was to kill Qin Daoxian before the golden shield technique was broken. He now only hopes that Qin Daoxuan's swordsmanship is unparalleled, but his defense and other abilities are insufficient. Otherwise, the 19 monks of their Mo family would all be buried here today. Of course Mo Changxing would not have thought that he was hitting right, and he actually guessed Qin Daoxuan's shortcomings. Compared to his attacking power, Qin Daoxuan's defense is indeed his biggest weakness. In terms of defense methods, Qin Daoxian was not much better than ordinary cultivators in the late stage of qi refining. But sometimes offense is the best defense, like right now. Mo Changxing's sword light tore through the rain curtain and killed Qin Daoxian. However, before his sword light approached Qin Daoxian 10 feet, a more terrifying white mark flashed away. The white mark pierced Mo Changxing's sword light in an instant. Let his flying sword fly back with a whimper in an instant. This? Mo Changxing looked at the scene in front of him in horror. Immediately, a sense of terror that he had never felt before attacked him. Fellow Taoist Rao. Before the words were finished, the terrifying white mark was like piercing a bubble, tearing the spherical shield formed by the golden shield technique directly. Then the white mark turned. Mo Changxing's head fell to the sea at the same time along with his remnant body. Clan, the patriarch is dead. The patriarch is dead. Not just anyone shouted such a sentence. Suddenly, the courage of the Mo family cultivator to resist was instantly disintegrated. Double reverse hit until now, speaking slowly is really fast. Except for Mo Changxing, the other Mo family cultivators could not even tear through the rain screen sword energy, but their own defensive talismans were torn apart one after another. If it wasn't for Qin Daoxuan's intentional retention of some strength in the end, the more than a dozen cultivators of the Mo family would probably all have to bleed on the spot. Even so, when Qin Daoxian put away the sword of chasing the wind and covering the rain, Mo Yuqing was the only one who was standing in the air with the Mo family cultivator intact. As for the others, they have either broken arms or missing a leg. Those who have broken arms and few legs are lucky, at least they still have one life. What's even worse is that the 11 Mo family cultivators who fell into the sea, all of them were cut into minced meat, and their deaths were extremely tragic. Mo Yuqing, who was already pale, was so frightened that his face was bloodless. He raised his finger and pointed at Qin Daoxian, trembling for a while, speechless. And the black-robed loose cultivator who led them to track them down was even more frightened and trembling all over. Qin Daoxian even smelled the smell of urine. This black-robed loose cultivator, a dignified cultivator, was actually scared to pee at this moment, which is rare. Qin Daoxian deliberately stayed these two people, otherwise not to mention Mo Yuqing, just relying on the 5th level of qi refining in the black-robe scattered repair area. It is estimated that even Qin Daoxuan's sword energy could not be resisted. Not to mention standing here intact now. This battle, no, it should be said that this massacre from beginning to end only lasted for less than 3 breaths. Fight down. The head of the Mo family was in a different place, and the 11 Mo family cultivators were broken into pieces and scattered in the sea. The remaining 7 Mo family cultivators, except Mo Yuqing, were all seriously injured. Even though Mo Yuqing was not injured, but at the moment he was killed, the only thought in his mind now is to live. Only when he faced death, did he know that the most precious thing in this world was not money but life. Right now, there was a roar in the sky and a spirit void battleship cut through the sky and landed. Who knows? When Mo Yuqing saw the Lingshu battleship, it was like a drowning man had grabbed the last straw. He pointed at Qin Daoxian and screamed in a hoarse and sharp voice, "Killed! Be killed! Help! Senior help!" Qin Daoxian. Chapter 82? Senior Help. Mo Yuqing wailed as he flew towards the Lingshu battleship, as if there were deadly evil spirits behind him. The huge spirit void battleship hovered above everyone's heads. Immediately, streams of light flew down from the spirit void battleship. It is the escape light of the base building cultivator. When Chen's uncle and nephew saw this scene, the old watched Mo Yuqing's performance at ease. Seeing that Chen Daoxian didn't stop him, Mo Yuqing felt a surge of ecstasy in his heart. Just as he was ecstatic, a flash of light swept across him, and then an extremely cold face came into his eyes. Senior, I am noisy. Zhou Muqing glanced coldly at Mo Yuqing, grabbed his neck with one hand, and held him in his hand as if he was carrying a chicken. With Zhou Muqing and others escaping and descending on the Cangyun, uncle and nephew of the Chen family hurried forward to greet him. Brother Zhou. Uncle Zhou. Chen Xinhe and Chen Daoxian hurried forward and bowed their hands, smiling happily. Seeing Chen Xinhe, especially when seeing Chen Daoxian, Zhou Muqing's eyes lit up slightly. Chen Daoxian's performance against the Mo family cultivator just now, he can see it all. Zhou Muqing was surprised to find that when it comes to the realm of Kendo, the young junior in front of him is actually above him. This is a little scary. You must know that he is a cultivator on the 7th floor of the foundation building, and his cultivation base is a great realm higher than that of Chen Daoxian. Chen Daoxian started practicing swordsmanship in his mother's womb, and the level of Kendo is impossible to surpass him. The only explanation is that Chen Daoxian, like his Zhou family's arrogant Zhou Mubai, is a unique Kendo genius. If this kind of Kendo genius does not fall in the future, he is destined to become a famous person. Think of this. Zhou Muqing regenerated his intention to make good friends with his uncle and nephew of the Chen family. Especially Chen Daoxian is still so young. Regardless of his appearance, Zhou Muqing is only in his 40s, but in fact he has been practicing for more than 150 years. Even if the foundation building cultivator had 200 years of lifespan, Zhou Muqing didn't have much left. And Zhou Muqing knew in his heart that if he didn't have much chance, the possibility of him breaking through to the Purple Mansion in this lifetime is very slim. It would be fine if Zhou Muqing was alone. However, he had a son at an old age and had a son Zhou Xiliang in the qi refining period. This made him have to think more about his son's future. Although the Zhou family covered the sky with only one hand in Guang'an Mansion, the Zhou family also had hundreds of thousands of cultivators. There are so many monks, and his son Zhou Xiliang's aptitude and temperament are not very good. Zhou Muqing was actually very worried about his son's future. Now that he is still alive, his son may not have any worries, but when he dies in the future, his son's situation will definitely be much more difficult than it is now. As a child of the Zhou family, Zhou Muqing knew in his heart that the Zhou family would never raise a waste with a lot of resources. But Zhou Muqing couldn't tell outsiders about these worries. In the eyes of outsiders, Zhou Muqing was a high-ranking deacon who was the patrol deacon in charge of the Zhou family's spirit void battleship. But who can understand the pain in his heart? Originally, he helped Chen Xinhe and Chen Daoxian's uncle and nephew because of the second-order water spirit beads that Chen Xinhe bribed him and his former colleagues in Zhenangguan. But today, after seeing Chen Daoxian's terrifying Kendo talent, Zhou Muqing completely changed his mind. He wants to befriend the Chen family, especially Chen Daoxian. For some reason in Chen Daoxian he vaguely seemed to see the shadow of the Zhou family Tianjiao, the Guang'an sword immortal Zhou Mubai, who had coerced the entire Guang'an mansion. Thoughts flipped. Zhou Muqing imprisoned Mo Yuqing's Dantian Qi Si and threw it on the deck of Cangyun. He cupped his hands and said, "Brother Chen, nephew, did Zhou come late?" "It's not too late, it's just right." Chen Xinhe cupped his hands and said with a smile. On the deck of the Cangyun, Mo Yuqing heard their conversation, and his heart gradually sank. At this time he didn't know that their Mo family was overshadowed by Chen Xinhe. Thinking of this, he pointed at Chen Xinhe and yelled, "It's you! It's you, an old bastard who is plotting against my Mo family. Old man, you are so cruel." Hear this shouting. Chen Daoxian's face sank immediately, and he raised his hand and waved a burst of infuriating energy, knocked Mo Yuqing to the ground and said coldly, "Keep your mouth clean." Mo Yuqing seemed to have been defeated by Chen Daoxian, and was slapped by him. Not only did he not dare to speak back, but he buried his head on the deck. Chen Xinhe was scolded by Mo Yuqing, but he was not angry but smiled and said, "Don't blame me, I didn't give you Mo family a chance. I said before, I have informed the Zhou family patrol team. It is your Mo family who are obsessed with it. It will cause bitter fruit at this time. How can you blame me?" "Me?" Hearing these murderous words, Mo Yuqing was so angry that he was speechless. But then, He seemed to think of something again and crawled over frantically, grabbed the corner of Zhou Muqing's clothes and prayed, "Senior Zhou, please raise your hand and let go of my Mo family." Mo Yuqing paused. "Yes, my Mo family has spirit stones. We have more than 30,000 spirit stones which are used by my patriarch to build the foundation. Now I give you all of them. I just ask you to spare my Mo clan family." Saying that, Mo Yuqing kept grabbing the ground with his head and kowtow frantically. Seeing his kneeling and begging for the sake of his clan, Qin Daoxian couldn't bear it a little, but then he became ruthless and turned his head to stop looking at him. Qin Xianhe and Zhou Muqing who were present were not human. Seeing Qin Daoxian's expression, he knew what he was thinking. Zhou Muqing seemed to be reprimanding Mo Yuqing, and he seemed to be explaining it to Qin Daoxian, saying, "Humph! If everyone in Guang'an House follows your Mo family's example, and after intercepting the comrades and being exposed, bribing my Zhou family cultivator will be able to get away with it. How can there be peace in my huge Guang'an mansion?" After speaking, he paused and a meaningful smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "Besides, where did your Mo family get more than 30,000 spirit stones? If you have so many spirit stones, why would you kill your fellows?" Hearing this, Qin Xianhe on the side hurriedly echoed, "Brother Zhou is very true. The Mo family is only poor and crazy to kill our uncle and nephew. How can they have more than 30,000 spirit stones? This son must be lying to you." Ha ha ha. Speaking, the two looked at each other and smiled without saying anything. Qin Daoxian glanced at Uncle 13 and then at Zhou Muqing. He found that the monks in Wanxinghai were more ruthless than the others. The Mo family is completely over this time. Thinking of this, he handed the photo stone to Zhou Muqing and said, "Uncle Zhou, this is the evidence that the Mo family intercepted our uncle and nephew." After taking Qin Daoxian's photo-taking stone and releasing it for everyone to see, Zhou Muqing sneered, "What else do you have to say about your Mo family?" Hearing this, Mo Yuqing glanced at Qin Ziyan's uncle and nephew and Zhou Muqing, with a look of despair on his face, completely slumped to the ground. Chapter 83. Lord Deacon, the remaining 6 monks of the Mo family and this sneaky loose cultivator have all been captured. Please Lord Deacon for instructions. On the deck of the Zhangyun. A cultivator in the early stage of foundation building led a team of cultivators from the Zhou family in the late stage of qi refining, and captured all the remaining cultivators of the Mo family who were seriously injured, including the intact black-robed loose cultivator. Zhou Muqing glanced at it, first the battleship back. Immediately he pointed at Mo Yuqing and said, "Take him back with him." "Yes, Lord Deacon." After that, the cultivator in the early stage of foundation establishment picked up Mo Yuqing, who was lying on the ground, and returned to the spirit void battleship with the escape light. See. Zhou Muqing turned around, looked at Qin Daoxian and said, "Nephew, will you come with me to the Mo family to be a witness?" Hearing this, Qin Daoxian and Qin Xianhe looked at each other and said, "Then I will disturb Uncle Zhou." "Haha, don't bother, Brother Qin, then let's go ahead. Brother Zhou, walk slowly. Daoxian, remember to obey your Uncle Zhou's orders on this trip." "Yes, Uncle 13. Qin Daoxian cupped his hands and then, together with Zhou Muqing, flew to the spirit void battleship above everyone's heads. This is the second time Qin Daoxian has seen this behemoth. It's just that compared to the first time I saw it, this time Qin Daoxian was invited to board this battleship as a guest, and his feelings were naturally very different. The figures of Qin Daoxian and Zhou Muqing were as small as 2 mayflies in front of the Lingshu battleship. Enter the spirit void battleship. Qin Daoxian was shocked as if he had entered a fairy house. "This is Aura?" Qin Daoxian looked at Zhou Muqing in surprise. "Right?" Zhou Muqing smiled and nodded. Each of the spirit void battleships has a spirit pivot pool, which can not only provide power for the spirit void battleship, but also provide spiritual energy for the monks inside the spirit void battleship. If you have to make an analogy, you can think of it as a spiritual vein that can move. Movable spiritual veins. The Qin family has just cultivated a first-order spiritual meridian. In his understanding, the spiritual meridian is built according to the terrain, and there is no reason to move it. But the spirit void battleship in front of him obviously shattered his imagination of the spirit veins. Perhaps this so-called Lingshu pool is probably equivalent to the nuclear-powered engine on the previous aircraft carrier. Qin Daoxian, who doesn't know the reason, can only make this analogy. This kind of large-scale war artifact is the foundation of the big forces. Generally, small families and small forces, not to mention refining and building it, even have no way to buy it. Zhou Muqing continued to introduce. My Zhou family's Spirit Void battleship can take 21 foundation-building cultivators and 126 chi-refining cultivators when fully loaded. Under the joint control, the strongest cultivators in the late period of Zifu can burst out with all their strength. One strike. Hearing this, Qin Daoxuan's heartbeat suddenly accelerated. Immediately. Seemingly thinking of something, Qin Daoxian cupped his hands and said, "Uncle Zhou, in this way, isn't this Spirit Void battleship comparable to a Zifu monk?" Hearing this, Zhou Muqing laughed dumbly, shook his head and said, "How can it be so simple? Although it can burst out the full blow of a cultivator of the Zifu, it does not have the flexibility of a cultivator of the Zifu." Zhou Muqing paused. "Have my nephew ever seen a puppet?" "Puppet? Uncle Zhou is talking about the puppet beast produced by the Qinji Temple of Xianyunsu?" "Yes, that's it," Zhou Muqing nodded. "The Xianqing Dao League used a lot of the puppet beasts sold by the Qinji Temple in the battle against my Wan Xinghai. If this kind of puppet beast can be compared to a cultivator, then my Wan Xinghai would have been broken by the Xianqing Dao League long ago. This spirit warship is the same as the puppet beast. Most of the attacks it sends can only attack in one direction in advance, and the higher the intensity of the attack, the more difficult it is to change lanes in the middle. If the Spirit Void battleship attacks with all its strength, then its attack will never change in the middle. This kind of attack, not to mention the Zifu cultivator, even the foundation-building cultivator can easily avoid it." Hearing this explanation, Qin Daoxian finally had a preliminary impression of this Spirit Void battleship. However, although the Spirit Void battleship can't be used to deal with monks, it has a use. Said, Zhou Muqing smiled mysteriously, "You can see the use of this later." Hearing this, Qin Daoxian was silent. After pondering for a moment, Zhou Muqing continued, "Nephew, I just saw that you fought against the Mo family cultivator. It seems that you haven't practiced defensive methods?" Daoxian is ashamed. "My Qin family is weak, and there is no refining method for the inheritance of defense methods and defense instruments." Hearing this, Zhou Muqing nodded his head. The refining methods of defensive spells and defensive instruments are indeed much more precious than offensive methods. As he said that, he took out a jade slip from the storage bag and handed it over. "This is a first-order defense sword art, rock sword art, that I exchanged for my combat achievements in the Izumo country in the early years, and I give it to you. Uncle Zhou, how does this make it?" Qin Daoxian was a little frightened. "What? Your uncle and nephew can give my son Zhou Xiliang such a precious second-order water spirit bead? I gave you a first-order defense sword art, but you have to refuse. Are you looking down on your Uncle Zhou?" Zhou Muqing laughed. "Daoxian dare not. Speaking of which, Qin Daoxian naturally couldn't refuse. It's just that he didn't know that Zhou Muqing's attitude towards him had changed so much, as if he had changed. Unless. Qin Daoxian had a vague guess in his heart, but he wasn't sure. Seeing that he didn't speak, Zhou Muqing said, "What's wrong?" Qin Daoxian shook his head, cupped his hands and said, "Daoxian received this great favor without gong, and he was excited and a little scared." Hearing these words, Zhou Muqing said meaningfully, "Since you and my son Zhou Xiliang are like old friends at first sight, I will treat you like my own son and nephew. It is reasonable for an elder to give a gift to his son and nephew. Where does the fear come from?" Qin Daoxian looked at him and instantly understood Zhou Muqing's implication. He cupped his hands and said, "Uncle Zhou, I will definitely get closer to Brother Zhou from now on." "Haha, okay, young people just need to get closer and closer." Zhou Muqing got Qin Daoxuan's response, and the big stone in his heart was finally put down. His painstaking efforts were nothing more than to find a good backer for his son Zhou Xiliang in the future. And Qin Daoxian was the backer he saw. It seems that in response to Qin Daoxian, Zhou Muqing reciprocated, "In the future, the Guang'an House Sanctuary artifact market will belong to your Qin family." Hearing this most powerful response, Qin Daoxian was overjoyed and said, "Thank you Uncle Zhou for taking care of you. Since you call me Uncle Zhou, why should our family speak two words?" Yes, what Uncle Zhou said is very true." The two looked at each other and laughed. Between the two talking, the Lingshu battleship moved rapidly towards the Mo family's Lingdao. Compared with the turtle speed of the Qin family Canglong, the flight speed of the Spirit Void battleship is even 3 points faster than the escape light of the Foundation Establishment cultivator. And according to Zhou Muqing, this is not the maximum flight speed of the Spirit Void battleship. If the Spirit Void battleship is flying at full speed, the speed is almost comparable to that of the Zifu cultivator, and it can be crossed with a stick of incense from thousands of miles away, which is even more exaggerated than the speed of the previous fighter. Chapter 84. Just a few hours. Under the high-speed flight of the Lingshu battleship, the Mo family's Lingdao was faintly visible. Standing on the deck of the Spirit Void battleship, Chen Daoxian looked down and Mojiling Island was like a disk, floating on the blue sea. Boom. The huge Spirit Void battleship headed straight towards Mojiling Island without any intention of slowing down. The air was broken open by the Spirit Void battleship, making a roaring sound. Sudden. A light curtain rose from the Majia Lingshan, protecting the entire Lingshan. Mountain Protection Array. Chen Daoxian recognized at a glance that this was a mountain protection formation based on the arrangement of the spiritual veins. Of course, the Mo family's mountain protection formation could only protect the 10-mile radius covered by the spiritual veins. Outside this range, since there was no spiritual energy to provide spiritual energy, the mountain protection formation would not be able to protect it. But even so, ordinary foundation-building cultivators want to break through the mountain protection formation based on the arrangement of the first-order spiritual veins, which is basically wishful thinking. Just the next moment when the Mo family propped up the formation, an old man on the 6th floor of Qi refining flew out of the great formation. After he saw the Zhou family's Spirit Void battleship, he even trembled when he spoke. "I don't know. What's the matter with the adults coming to my Mo family?" The old man swallowed. "My Mo family is the imperial family of Qianyuan Jianzong, so don't wait." Not finished. A huge voice sounded from the Spirit Void battleship, resounding throughout Majia Island. The cultivator of the Mo family intercepted and killed the Guang'an mansion. What? When the old man heard this, he was immediately frightened. He knew that the patriarch took away all the late-stage qi refining monks in the family, but he didn't know what the patriarch and the family's late-stage qi refining cultivators were doing. Now he knew, but he still couldn't believe it. "What evidence do you have?" In the face of this serious crime of looting and annihilating the family, his Mo family naturally wouldn't admit it casually. This is the evidence. Done. The image of Mo Changxing leading the Mo family cultivators to intercept Chen's uncle and nephew appeared in the air. "What else do your Mo family have to say now?" "Impossible, impossible. You must fabricate evidence to frame my Mo family. My Mo family will never compromise." In fact, after seeing the image in the photo-taking stone, the old man basically believed 90% that it was indeed his Mo family cultivator who killed his comrade. But this crime, they can't admit it to death. Otherwise, not only would their Mo family cultivators not be able to save their lives, but even ordinary people would be demoted to slaves, which was extremely miserable. After all, the old man flew back to the mountain protection formation, posing a posture of swearing to resist. "The mayfly shakes the tree." Zhou Muqing sneered, then waved his hand. The next second, at the tip of the Spirit Void battleship, a sphere of thunder was faintly gathering, as if gathering energy. About 3 breaths. The Spirit Void battleship has gathered energy. A beam of light rushed towards the Mo family protecting mountain formation. Laugh. The Guangmu built by the mountain protection formation, when it encountered the thunder beam of the Lingshu battleship, was like the ice and snow under the scorching sun, instantly melting away. The entire mountain protection formation was directly torn apart by the beam of light. Even the top of the mountain with Mo Jialing was directly melted by the thunder beam. That's right, it's melting. Looking at it with Chen Daoxuan's eyesight, he found that there was a red liquid similar to magma in the gap where Lingshan was melted. He knew that this was the product of the melting of rocks under intense heat. Seeing Chen Daoxuan's stunned look, Zhou Muqing smiled and said, "This is the biggest role of the Lingshu battleship, cutting down mountains and breaking doors." After finishing speaking, he ordered the Zhou family cultivator in the battleship, "Go and capture all the Mo family cultivators and kill those who stubbornly resist." "Yes, Lord Deacon." Order issued. One after another escaped light flew down from the Spirit Void battleship. Chen Daoxian knew that each of these escaped lights represented a Zhou family's foundation-building cultivator. So many cultivators at the foundation-building stage, plus a group of cultivators from the Zhou family in the late stage of qi refining, to arrest the cultivators of the Mo family whose highest level of cultivation was only the 6th level of qi refining, it was like shooting mosquitoes with a cannon. In no time. Of the dozens of monks from the Mo family, only 12 were arrested and brought back. "Lord Deacon, all the cultivators of the Mo family have been arrested. Come on, let's go down and have a look." Saying that, he looked at Chen Daoxian. "Nephew, you come too." "Yes, Uncle Zhou." The other Zhou family cultivators were all excited when they heard this. Qin Daoxian knew what they were going to do and quickly followed behind everyone. Boss, this is the Mo family library. The early foundation building cultivator who had been meticulously addressing Zhou Mu as the deacon on the Lingshu battleship, actually no longer called Zhou Muqing's title but changed it. Zhou Muqing glanced at Qin Daoxian and introduced, "He is Zhou Siyuan, my deputy, this is my nephew Qin Daoxian." Briefly introduced them to each other. Senior Zhou. Don't call it that, Zhou Siyuan waved his hand and smiled, since you are the eldest son and nephew if you don't dislike it, just call me Big Brother Zhou. Brother Zhou. Qin Daoxian smiled and cupped his hands. Seeing this scene, Zhou Muqing smiled and said, "Let's go, let me see what the Mo family is hiding." Hearing this, Zhou Siyuan immediately became excited. This kind of work of looting a family and exterminating a family is not common in Guang'an Prefecture. After all, very few families would commit the big crime of looting and annihilating their families. Even if they wanted to, they would basically clean up, making it difficult for people to get caught. There are very few people caught on the spot like the Mo family. But every time the family raided and killed the family, it was a gluttonous feast for the Zhou family patrol team. Thinking of the treasures in the Mo family's treasury, Zhou Siyuan felt like a cat's claw in his heart. Compared with the Qin family, there are much more buildings on the Lingshan mountain of the Mo family. On the Lingshan mountain, various spiritual palaces and caves can be seen everywhere, and these are the residences of the monks of the Mo family. Just this moment, all these Lingshan caves were empty, leaving only patches of blood, proving that someone once existed here. Boss, here we are. Zhou Siyuan stopped and said with a smile, according to the Mo family's confession, this is where their family library is located. Zhou Muqing looked at the gate made of broken dragon stone in front of him, stretched out his palm, and stroked the stone wall of the broken dragon stone. In an instant, the entire stone wall collapsed like gravel and turned into a pile of white powder. Boss, your pure yang fire art is getting more and more profound. Okay, stop flattering, let's go in and have a look together. Who knows? Just when the three of them set foot in the Mo family library. Brush. A wind blade with a length of about Jianghu and a width of about 3 feet attacked the crowd. Although Wind Blade is not the strongest among all first-order spells in terms of speed, it is only slightly slower than Leifa. But the cultivator's consciousness in the later stage of Foundation establishment responded quickly. I saw a spiritual shield rising up in front of the three, and the Wind Blade slashed on the spiritual shield, disappearing without even a single wave. This is a puppet beast? Qin Daoxian finally saw who was attacking them. It wasn't the Mo family cultivator, but a first-order high-grade leopard-shaped puppet beast. The wind blade just now was spit out from its mouth. Seeing this scene, Zhou Siyuan's face also gloomy. No wonder that Mo family cultivator was so cool just now, and directly revealed the location of the Mo family library. It turned out that he wanted to use this scorpion to plot against me. Speaking of which, he slashed towards the leopard-shaped puppet beast with a palm. It smashed it more than 10 feet away and hit the wall of the Mo family library. Did not expect. The leopard-shaped puppet beast was hit hard by this and even stood up staggeringly. Seeing that Zhou Siyuan wanted to take another shot, Qin Daoxian stepped forward and said, "Brother Zhou, I'm very interested in this puppet beast, why not let me subdue it?" Hearing this, Zhou Siyuan naturally wouldn't argue with him and made a gesture of courtesy to him. "Thank you, Brother Zhou." Qin Daoxian bowed his hands and immediately released the Qingying sword, displaying a set of wind-chasing sword art. Under the control of the wind-chasing sword art, the Qingying sword burst out at a much faster speed than the Feishua sword. For a time, the Mo family's library was filled with sword light. This leopard-shaped puppet beast was plucked off by Qin Daoxian and the spirit stone in its abdomen. Losing the spiritual stone as the power source, the puppet beast stood still on the spot. Seeing this, Qin Daoxian took a step forward, put the puppet beast in the storage bag, and then rushed to the two of them and said, "Since I took the puppet beast, I will no longer participate in the treasures in the Mo family's treasury." Hear this. Zhou Siyuan, who was originally slightly dissatisfied with Qin Daoxian, suddenly fell in love with him. "Brother Qin, how does this make it possible to enter Baoshan and return empty-handed?" Qin Daoxian patted the storage bag and said with a smile, "Without empty hands, isn't this already a harvest?" This? Hearing this, Zhou Siyuan looked at Zhou Muqing. "Don't be greedy, know how to advance and retreat." Seeing this scene, Zhou Muqing looked at Qin Daoxian more and more satisfied, and he felt more and more that his investment in Qin Daoxian was right. Thinking of this, he nodded and said, since my nephew doesn't want to fight with you, then you should share this treasure house of the Mo family with your brothers. Thank you, boss. Zhou Xiyuan immediately smiled when he heard this. He didn't know anything else, but he could still hear clearly there were more than 30,000 spirit stones in the Mo family's library. There are more than 30,000 spirit stones. With his relationship with Zhou Muqing, he can at least get more than 3,000 spirit stones, which is also a big gain for the monks in the early stage of foundation building. Think of this. He became more and more fond of Qin Daoxian. Chapter 85. Watching the Zhou family cultivator move boxes of spiritual stones out of the Mo family library. There was no wavering in Qin Daoxian's eyes. Compared with the magical instrument market in Sangxiafang City that his Qin family had harvested, although this batch of goods was quite large, Qin Daoxian did not take it seriously. But the foundation-building cultivators of the Zhou family were different from the qi refining cultivators. Although they are children of the Zhou family, there are a large number of Zhou family cultivators, and the clan rules are strict. Generally speaking, in addition to getting a fixed annual salary for their functions in the patrol team, they can only enjoy various hidden benefits of the family. In terms of cultivation resources, the ordinary disciples of the Zhou family are really not as lavish as the cultivators of the Qin family. At least ordinary Zhou family cultivators can't do the supply of medicinal pills and spiritual rice to assist cultivation. According to Zhou Muqing, the monks in the qi refining period of the patrol team have an annual salary of only 500 spirit stones. In the eyes of a loose cultivator, this amount of money is naturally a huge sum of money, but for the children of the Zhou family, it is a drop in the bucket, and it is not enough to buy spiritual pills to assist cultivation all year round. Zhou Muqing usually gives his son Zhou Xiliang more pocket money than this. The annual salary of the monks in the foundation building stage is much higher, but it is only twice as high as that of the children in the later stage of qi refining, with only 1,000 spiritual stones. Of course, the foundation building period here refers to the initial stage of foundation building. Like Zhou Muqing, a deacon in the late stage of foundation building who is in charge of a spirit worship, has a much higher annual salary, usually more than 5,000 spirit stones. In other words, the 5 second-order spiritual beads that the Qin family had bribed to Zhou Muqing before were roughly equivalent to his annual salary for 1 year. This is also the reason why Zhou Muqing said that Qin Xianhe was generous. As you can imagine, the Zhou family cultivator was so excited when he saw more than 30,000 spirit stones in the Mo family library. Because according to the unspoken rules of Wan Xinghai, a small family like the Mo family was raided and wiped out. After reporting to Qianyuan Jianzong, the above usually only verified whether the Mo family's crime was true. The floating wealth obtained by raiding the home is usually owned by the Zhou family patrol team, and Qianyuan Jianzong generally does not confiscate it. This is also the reason why the Zhou family cultivator is so excited. With their understanding of Zhou Muqing's temperament, each of them can get a lot of spirit stones. Even the lowest level qi refining cultivator can at least harvest more than 100 spirit stones, which is worth their monthly salary. How can they be unhappy? Leaving a group of patrol monks to deal with the Mo family mortals. The rest, including Qin Daoxian, returned to the Spirit Void battleship. Back to the Spirit Void battleship. Zhou Muqing looked at Qin Daoxian and asked, "Nephew, are you going back to Shuanghu Island or Guang'an House?" Indulge for a moment. Qin Daoxian cupped his hands and said, "Please, Uncle Zhou, send me to Guang'an Mansion. It's not troublesome, we just have to go back to rest." Before Zhou Muqing could speak, Zhou Xiyuan on the side smiled and said, "Brother Qin, when we go back this time, we must have a good drink." Qin Daoxian looked at Zhou Muqing and nodded with a smile. "Okay. Let's not get drunk when the time comes." "Ah. Well, don't get drunk." In the laughter of the crowd, the Spirit Void battleship was speeding towards Guang'an Mansion. The flying speed of the Spirit Void battleship is astonishing. The distance the Soryu would take more than a month to sail. It took only a few hours for the Lingshu battleship to arrive at Guang'an House. Just when everyone rushed to Guang'an House, a voice came from the Lingshu battleship. "Look, is that a frontline transport ship?" Hearing this, Zhou Muqing's face suddenly changed and he was overjoyed. He walked to the deck and looked in the direction of the Zhou family qi cultivator's finger. Zhou Muqing is a cultivator in the late stage of foundation building, and his eyesight is much stronger than that of cultivator in the qi refining stage. He saw that there was a small black spot on the horizon, and it was flying towards Guang'an Mansion quickly. Looking at its speed, although it is not comparable to the Spirit Void battleship, it is not much slower. Zhou Muqing, who served in Zenangwan, recognized at a glance that it was the transport ship that returned from the front line. Seeing this, Zhou Muqing said with joy on his face, "Today is really a double happiness. We just made a fortune when we encountered the return of the frontline transport ship." Oh! Hearing this, the crowd burst into cheers. Unsure of the reason, Qin Daoxian couldn't help looking at Zhou Siyuan beside him and asked, "Brother Zhou, does this frontline transport ship refer to the ship that transports supplies on the battlefield of Izumo?" "Right." Zhou Siyuan nodded and said excitedly, "Every few years transport ships from the front line will come to each prefecture in Sangzhou to transport all kinds of materials seized on the front line to each prefecture." Hear this. Qin Daoxian probably remembered that when he went to the Guang'an prefecture slave market to buy female slaves, the slave trader said about transporting female slaves from the front line. Come to think of it, it is this kind of transport ship that transports it. Hearing the two talking, Zhou Muqing sighed. If Jinan Pass was still there, why would it be necessary to transport supplies every few years? In the Guang'an prefecture, there would be frontline transport ships every year, but it's a pity. Zhou Muqing shook his head. Hear this. The excitement of the crowd gradually subsided. The fall of Zenangwan brought the Zhangzhou cultivators not only the simple death and injury of millions of cultivators, but also the incalculable loss of profits. In Izumo, Qinyuan Jianzong built a total of 7 huge immortal cities. Zenangwan Xianqing is one of them. Around these 7 immortal cities, Qinyuan Jianzong built a complete defense system. Every immortal city will radiate the land of several states of the Cloud Country, and these territories are the basic discs for the Wanxinghai monks to plunder the resources of the Cloud Country. Zhangzhou and Wanxinghai and several surrounding prefectures are supported by resources from several prefectures near Xianqing in Zenangwan. Usually, most of these resources will be transported to the back of Wanxinghai after being selected by the frontline monks. It is by relying on the strategy of fighting to support the war, Wanxinghai cultivator can continue to grow in just 400 years. Especially Wanxinghai's loose cultivator. 400 years ago, Xinjuezhen was in a period of chaos in the Sea of Stars. There are almost no high-level cultivators in the loose cultivators, and Jinjue cultivators such as Xinjuezhenren are very rare in the stragglers. Almost all the high-ranking monks were born in a large family in the Qinyuan sword sect. And by virtue of the 400 years of war between Wanxinghai and Izumo, a large number of famous high-level monks were born in the loose cultivation. Not to mention the Jindan cultivators, even the nascent soul cultivators, there are quite a few people out there. In terms of momentum, he was even gradually able to compete with the family monks. Later, the major immortals also realized that this is not the way to go, and they all put their children into the Izumo battlefield to experience and earn resources. Otherwise, in the early days of Wanxinghai's attack on Izumo, the children of the big family would not be willing to go to the battlefield of Izumo. Because the big family has no shortage of cultivation resources, there is no need to let the clansmen die on the battlefield. As a result, after they saw the rise of the loose cultivator group, they all panicked, and they couldn't wait to send their tribesmen to the battlefield. And Zenangwan fell. It is equivalent to Zhangzhou and several surrounding states, losing the basic disc in Izumo. As such, if the Zhangzhou cultivator wanted to go to the battlefield of Izumo, he even had to go to another state to serve. Not to mention whether Zhangzhou cultivators will suffer discrimination and humiliation if they go to serve in other states. Just saying that it is impossible for other states to share the resources that support their own state with Zhangzhou makes it unacceptable for countless Zhangzhou cultivators. But even if it is unacceptable, it is an indisputable fact that Zhangzhou has lost Zenangwan Xianqing. As a land-losing state, Zhangzhou has been cutting resource supply for more than 50 years. The frontline transport ships of Guang'an Prefecture have also changed from once a year to once every few years. Chapter 86. Under the Spirit of the Virtual Warship. Return to Sangxiafang City, Guang'an Prefecture. Along the way, all the monks Qin Daoxian saw had cheering expressions on their faces. Open the door of Hongyin Feijian's store. Qin Daoxian finally breathed a sigh of relief. Regarding the frontline transport ship, he learned a lot from Zhou Muqing and the others. To sum up, if possible, the Qin family had better raise a lot of spirit stones this year. Because after a year, Zhou's auction house is going to hold a grand auction. At that time, not only will a large number of frontline resources appear in the auction house, but the Zhou family will also come up with a lot of treasured resources to auction. Time of year. It is to raise spirit stones for powerful families in Guang'an Prefecture, as well as the publicity time of Zhou's auction house. A year is enough to make almost every cultivator in Guang'an House know about this grand auction. When I heard Zhou Muqing's words, Qin Daoxian thought of the main venue he saw when he went to Zhou's auction house. It's just that the main venue was closed at that time. It is estimated that if this auction is going to be held, it should be in that main venue. Qin Daoxian still has some confidence in raising spirit stones. Not to mention the transactions with the merman for more than a year, the Qin family's treasury was filled with a large number of precious spirit minerals and water spirit beads. It is said that this time, winning the magical instrument market in Sangxiafang City, Guang'an Prefecture, brought a hen that lays golden eggs to the Qin family. The market for magical instruments in Sangxiafang City is very broad. Small families and loose cultivators like the Mo family have not fully developed it at all. Qin Daoxian believes that with the continuous improvement of the production capacity of the Qinjia Feijin factory, the benefits brought to the Qin family by the market of scattered cultivation instruments will also become larger and larger. In the end, it was like the Yang family's boat trip. The Yang family's boat shop almost monopolized the boat market in Guang'an Prefecture. In terms of benefits, it was much larger than the market for magic instruments in a mere cultivator city. Because in the Wangxinghai, a loose cultivator can have no magical tools, but absolutely cannot have no ships. After all, magic tools are only things that enhance strength, while ships are tools for travel, which are absolutely indispensable. Otherwise, a monk without a boat would be almost impossible to move in the Wangxinghai. After all, the infuriating qi of the cultivators during the qi refining period is not yet sufficient to support them in wanton galloping in the vast sea of Wanxinghai. Wandered around the store. Qin Daoxian thought of another thing. Buy Lingmi for the shark people. Speaking of this, Qin Daoxian has dragged on for more than a year. It's just that the Qin family had neither strength nor background before, so they didn't want to be too high profile. After all, the spiritual rice required by the merman is not a small amount. It's different now. The Qin family has Zhou Muqing as a backer, not to mention walking sideways in Guang'an Mansion. Basically no one dares to take the initiative to trouble the Qin family. You must know that Zhou Muqing is not only a late foundation-building cultivator, but also holds a spirit void battleship in his hand. Even in the Zhou family where there were many foundation establishment cultivators, Zhou Muqing was not a dispensable little character. Think of this. Qin Daoxian walked out of the Hongyin Feijin store and walked straight towards Yang's boat. The store of Yang's shipping line is located in the core business district. Qin Daoxian rode on the cloud-treading beast car, hurried, and arrived at Yang's boat line more than an hour later. Enter Yang's ship line. The one who received him was still the shopkeeper Yang who sold him the slave ship last time. Fellow Taoist Yang, I haven't seen you for over a year, business is booming recently. The two sides sat down and after serving tea, Qin Daoxian greeted with a smile. It can't compare to the booming business of your Qin family's magic weapon shop, Yang Jia said politely. I've heard recently that your Qin family has robbed the Mo family of their magical instrument business. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian calmly took a sip of tea without saying much. The fact that the Mo family was raided and exterminated has not been publicized yet. It is estimated that the next time Qin Daoxian comes to Guang'an Mansion, this incident will be known to everyone. At that time, it was also when the Qin family became famous. The two made a few words of courtesy. Qin Daoxian put down the teacup in his hand and said, I came to find friend Yang Dao this time to buy a cargo ship. Oh. Hearing that there was business coming, Yang Jia's already rosy face became even more rosy. I wonder what type of cargo ship Qin Daoyu needs? My Qin family needs a cargo ship specially used to transport Lingmi. Lingmi? Yang Jia's face changed slightly and he said tentatively, will your Qin family also get involved in the Lingmi business? Do you need to ship it by cargo ship? Hearing this, Qin Daoxian smiled and did not speak. Look at my mouth, Ming Lang has forgotten the rules. Haha, fellow Daoist Qin, don't mind. After a ha-ha, Yang Jia continued, Lingmi transport ships are very common in Guang'an Prefecture. Many small families plant spiritual fields and sell spiritual rice to big families, and they will use this kind of cargo ship for shipment. Compared with the cargo ships that transport ordinary grain and ore, the Lingmi transport ship has a special cabin to ensure that the spirituality of Lingmi is not lost, so the price is slightly higher. Of course, no matter how high the price is, it will not be higher than the slave ship, so please rest assured. I don't know how your Lingmi transport ships are sold. Different models have different prices. The lowest model is 550 spirit stones. Yang Jia said with a smile. Qin Daoxian nodded. This price is much cheaper than the slave ship. What are the specific models? Our Yang shipping line has 3 types of Lingmi transport ships: Qianshi, Wanshi, and 100,000 Shi. Qianshi Lingmi sounds like a lot, but in fact there are not many. Lingmi is completely different from ordinary food. Take the most widely planted corn crystal rice in Guang'an Prefecture. This kind of spiritual rice is huge and full of texture. Each one is the size of half a baby's fist and weighs half a caddy. Except for monks, ordinary people have no luck at all. Converted to 1,000 stone corn, it is 120,000 caddies. According to the market price of Guang'an Prefecture, about 5 spirit stones are needed for 100 caddies of corn crystal. 120,000 caddies of corn crystal rice can be purchased for 6,000 spirit stones. That is to say, even the smallest Lingmi transport ship can pull 6,000 spiritual stones. The largest model is the Lingmi that can pull 600,000 lingshi in one boat. But that kind of cargo ships are exclusively for big families. For example, the Zhou family has hundreds of thousands of monks. Even if each monk consumes 5 kilograms of spiritual rice every day, the daily consumption of spiritual rice is huge. In fact, on average, the Zhou family cultivators consume more than 5 kilograms of spiritual rice per person per day. It may not be enough to double the real data. This point, Qin Daoxian, who practiced dragon python swallowing heaven, could not be more clear. If a 1,000-stone cargo ship was used to transport Lingmi, it would not even be enough to plug the gap between the teeth of the Zhou family cultivator. The Yang family had far fewer cultivators than the Zhou family, but there were also hundreds of thousands of cultivators. It also needs to consume a lot of Lingmi every day. Therefore, only a cargo ship of 100,000 stone can barely meet the needs of these big clans. Qin Daoxian looked at the expectant look on the other's face and smiled. Naturally, it is not a 100,000 stone model. Our Qin family needs a 10,000 stone Lingmi transport ship. The 10,000 stone type Lingmi transport ship can transport Lingmi worth 60,000 lingshi at a time. Although it is still not enough for the mere people to eat, it is enough to solve the other party's urgent needs. As for the larger 100,000 Shirling rice transport ship, Qin Daoxian simply didn't buy it because he was worried about attracting attention. After buying the Lingmi transport ship, he bought a full 5,000 stone Lingmi from the Zhou family. After taking time to gather with Zhou Xiyuan and others, Qin Daoxian took half the cargo and sailed toward Jianghu Island. Chapter 87. A month later. Qin Daoxian drove the cargo ship loaded with Lingmi back to Jianghu Island. When he saw Uncle 13, who was full of anticipation, he bowed his hands to Qin Xianhe and said with a smile, "Uncle 13, Daoxian lives up to his mission. Sangxiafeng City's Dharma artifact market will belong to my Qin family from now on." Hearing this, I saw that Qin Daoxian was young, but his face was full of tiredness. Qin Xian's heart was full of mixed tastes and he didn't know what it was like. He opened his mouth and was speechless for a long time. It's been a long time. He patted Qin Daoxian's shoulder hard and sighed, "Son, it's hard for you." Qin Daoxian grinned and shook his head. Compared to Uncle 13 supporting the family alone for so many years, what Daoxian did today is nothing. Hearing this, Qin Xianhe patted him on the shoulder again and said nothing. Jianghu Island Spirit Vessels. Qin Daoxian's mansion. The monks from the Qin family's qi refining period and above sat in the courtyard where Qin Daoxian usually practiced. However, according to Qin Daoxian's vision, inside these monks, except for him and Qin Xianhe, all of them are underage. Even the oldest Qin Daochuan is only 12 years old now. Not to mention that the youngest monk was only 6 years old. See this scene. Qin Daoxian thought for a while and said, "Qin Daochuan, Qin Daolian and Qin Daochu stay behind, and the rest should go back to practice." Saying that, he waved to the crowd. Hear this. The cultivator of the Qin family, who was already young, cheered and ran away without a trace. Qin Daochu saw the crowd go away in the wind, and his eyes were full of envy. Qin Daoxian glanced at him and said, "Why, do you want to go back too?" "No, no." Qin Daochu shook his head sharply and immediately sat up straight. Seeing him like this, Qin Daoxian pursed his lips. Qin Xianhe smiled and said, "Okay, don't blame your young patriarch for being strict. You are a little older, you should know that my Qin cultivator is rare. You have to take the initiative to take on the family responsibilities, instead of knowing how to play all day." A gentle reprimand. The three of Qin Daochu nodded one after another and said, "I will remember the teachings of the patriarch and the young patriarch." Seeing everyone concentrate, Qin Daoxian coughed, cleared his throat and said, "Today's meeting is the first family meeting entirely composed of monks that my Qin family has held in 50 years. Speaking of which, it is a historic moment for my Qin family." Hearing this, Qin Daochu and the others didn't feel too deeply, but Qin Xinhe couldn't help but redden his eyes. He and his clan brothers got together like this and held a clan meeting about the future development of the Chen family. It's a pity that everything is gone and it's not what it used to be. There are only two issues discussed at this family meeting today: family income and expenditure and family development in the next year. Speaking of this, Qin Daoxian paused. Next, let the patriarch talk about our family's income in the Guang'an Prefecture magic weapon shop this year. After speaking, Qin Daoxian looked at Qin Xinhe and found that the other party was distracted. He couldn't help but reminded in a low voice, "Uncle 13, Uncle 13? What?" Qin Xinhe came back to his senses with a slightly embarrassed expression on his vicissitudes face. Fine, let me talk about the income of the Hongyin Feijin store this year. Last year, the Hongyin Feijin store sold a total of 2,050 first-order low-grade Feijin, with a revenue of 102,500 spirit stones. After deducting taxes and fees, the total revenue was 92,250 spirit stones. On the side, Qin Daoxian continued to add, except for the accident in Guang'an Mansion, the business between the family and the merman is the main source of income. In the past year we have traded with the merman 5 times in total, and sold a total of 1,020 flying swords, making a huge profit. Mines and water spirit beads are worth nearly 1 million. It's just that these things are not easy to shoot for the time being, and they can only be accumulated in the family library. It is good to say that the spiritual ore is a good way to realize whether the Qin family sells it or sells it with its refining tools. Only the Shui Lingzhu, the Qin family, can't make a lot of shots. Because in Guang'an Prefecture, only the Zhou family had a large number of water spirit beads for sale. Once the Qin family revealed that they had a large number of water spirit beads, that was to say that they had no business dealings with the Mer people. Although Qinyuan Jianzong did not expressly stipulate that he could not trade with aliens, the exposure of transactions with aliens was always disgusting and affected the reputation of the Qin family. Not to mention, the Shui Lingzhu business is unique to the Zhou family. If the Qin family intervenes rashly, it will be touching the Zhou family's scale. At that time, once the Zhou family is angry, even Zhou Muqing can't protect his Qin family. Qin Daoxian naturally understood this truth. Therefore, for a long time in the future, Qin Daoxian will not touch the business of Shui Lingzhu, and will only use it for the cultivator of the Qin family or take out a little gift. Unless one day the strength of the Qin family completely surpasses the Zhou family. After a pause, Qin Daoxian continued, "This treasure worth 1 million spirit stones is the entire income of the Qin family this year." After talking about income, talk about expenses. This year my Qin family has a lot of income, but the expenses are not low. The first is the consumption of Feijin factory. Among them, the expansion of Feijin factory, the addition of Rongling furnace, the consumption of spirit stones in the Rongling furnace itself, and the biggest expense, the consumption of spiritual ore. Taken together, these expenditures amount to approximately 114,425 spirit stones. Wow! Hearing this number, even Qin Daochu and others had to exclaim. Qin Xinhe twitched in pain. In just 1 year of effort, a small Feijin factory has swallowed a first-order spiritual vein. Moreover, this year's calculation is still the consumption of Feijin factory before the production capacity is increased. Starting this year, the consumption of Feijin factory will increase 5 or 6 times. In other words, next year the Feijin factory will not only consume 100,000 spirit stones, but 50,000 or 600,000 spirit stones. Ignore the surprised expressions of everyone. Qin Daoxian continued, "Besides the Feijin factory, the second largest expenditure of my Qin family is the consumption of my Qin's cultivator's cultivation." Talking about the consumption of the Qin family's children's cultivation. Even Qin Daoxian was a little distressed. Unlike Feijin factory, although it eats more, it earns more. As for the cultivation of the Qin family cultivators, there will be no return in the short term, and with the expansion of the Qin family cultivator group in the future, this expenditure will increase exponentially. The Qin family currently has 1 monk from the Xianzi generation and 10 monks from the Taoist generation. Among them, the spiritual stones consumed by the monks of the immortal character generation in their cultivation last year were 0. Speaking of this, Qin Daoxuan's eyes turned slightly red. Although the family is now financially prosperous, Qin Xianhe is still reluctant to spend spiritual stones to cultivate. According to Qin Xianhe, he is already old and has no hope of establishing a foundation. Even if he breaks through to the late stage of qi refining, it is meaningless and will not help the improvement of the family's strength. It is better to save the spirit stone and give it to the more promising Taoist monks. After taking a deep breath and calming down, Qin Daoxian continued, the average cultivation consumption of the Taoist monks reached 3,025 spirit stones, and the total consumption was 30,250 spirit stones. Among them, the most consumed part is the cost of lingmi. That's right, all the cultivators of the Qin family have chosen to practice the dragon python swallowing heaven technique. This was also a decision Qin Daoxian made after careful consideration. Compared with Lingshi, what the Qin family lacks most now is a monk who is on his own. Qin Daoxian naturally tried every means to enhance the strength of the monks in the clan. Practicing body exercises is a good choice. Because cultivating the body refining exercises can increase the efficiency of refining spiritual energy. Although the increase is not obvious, it is far less fast than medicinal pills. But even if it increases by 10%, it is not a small improvement over time. For this reason, even if he spends more spirit stones, Qin Daoxian will not hesitate. The remaining expenses include the recent purchase of lingmi, which cost 30,000 lingshi, and the purchase of lingmi transport ship, which cost 800 lingshi. Last year, the total expenditure of my Qin family reached 169,479 spirit stones, and the balance of spirit stones was about 920,000. Of course, most of these spirit stones were stored in the clan treasury as spirit or in water spirit beads. This is all the income and expenditure of my Qin family last year. Chapter 88. After Qin Daoxuan's narration, everyone in the Qin family finally understood the family's financial situation. Summarize in one sentence. The Qin family is quite rich now and will be even richer in the future. It's a good thing that the family is rich, but it's also a bad thing because it means that we haven't transformed the spirit stone into strength and heritage. Qin Daoxian continued, so in the next year I will increase my investment in the cultivation of the cultivators of the Qin family, including but not limited to cultivation resources, exercises, spells, inheritance of cultivating arts and so on. Hear this. Qin Daochu raised his hand and said weakly, do you need to invest more? I almost vomit from eating lingmi every day. Practicing dragon python swallowing heaven means that the Qin family cultivator has to eat more than 100 kilograms of spiritual rice every day. Even if the taste is good, everyone is a little tired. Qin Daoxian ignored the idiot and continued, next, let's talk about the family's specific development plan for the next year. Everyone can say whatever they want. When the words fell, seeing that Qin Daochu couldn't wait to speak, Qin Daoxian glared at him, shut up. Hearing this, Qin Daochu immediately became stunned. Seeing Qin Daochu like this, the others laughed. Usually in front of the younger monks of the Taoist generation, Qin Daochu still tried his best to maintain his face as the first monk of the Qin family after Qin Daoxian. But in front of Qin Daoxian and others, he always unconsciously showed the nature of escape. Everyone laughed for a while. The atmosphere gradually relaxed. Qin Xinhe opened his mouth and said, I have an idea. You see, the spiritual vein of my Qin family, the daily spiritual energy escape is quite wasteful. It is better to open up a few acres of spiritual fields and plant some spiritual medicines, which can also increase part of the family's income. What do you think? Ah. Qin Daoxian stroked his forehead with his hand. There is no rush to open up spiritual fields and plant spiritual medicines. We are mainly talking about how to spend the family's money, not how to make money. Qin Daoxian had some headaches, and the temperament of 13th Uncle's miser was really indescribable. Besides, how long does it take to open up several acres of spiritual fields in the first-order spiritual veins and plant a few spiritual medicines? How much can you make? Is it worth spending such precious manpower of the Qin family? Isn't this nonsense? Seeing that Qin Xian's proposal was rejected, everyone pondered. Finally, Qin Daochu, who had endured for a long time, couldn't bear it any longer, and he said, Young patriarch, didn't you say before that the Zhou family will hold an auction in a year's time? That being the case, we will make every effort to produce flying swords next year, and after earning spirit stones we will buy them at auctions. There must be many good things that are not usually seen by then. What a great opportunity. Hearing this, Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Don't say it. Qin Daochus' words are much more constructive than Qin Ziyan's. The Qin family is not short of spirit stones, but what is lacking is something that transforms spirit stones into strength. This auction of the Zhou family is a good opportunity. By the time, there must be many rare treasures that have appeared at this auction. Okay, since that's the case, my Qin family's goal next year is to seize and develop the magic weapon market in the Sangxiafang city. Qin Daoxian finally set the tone. Follow the orders of the young patriarch. The crowd responded. And the family meeting. Wait until the people leave. Qin Daoxian apologized to Qin Xinhe and said, I just refuted Uncle 13's suggestion. Are you not angry? Saying that, he glanced at Qin Xinhe cautiously. How? Qin Xinhe smiled and said, Am I that stingy in your eyes? Uncle 13 is just fine if he's not angry. Qin Daoxian breathed a sigh of relief and joked, I'm afraid that Uncle 13 will settle accounts in the autumn and slap me with a slap. Ha ha ha. Qin Xinhe was amused by him and laughed, and a little grudge in his heart disappeared immediately. Ugh, Qin Xinhe smiled and sighed, After all, I am old and some of you can't keep up with the thoughts of your young people. Speaking of which, I have nothing to teach you. Basically you can do it, you are even better than me, I can rest assured that the family will be handed over to you. Uncle 13. You listen to me first, Qin Xinhe raised his hand. I only hope that in the future before you do things, you will measure the gains and losses more, and don't be impulsive and don't give in blindly. Too much impulsiveness can easily lead to premature death, too much concession, and it is easy to become weak. Hearing these words, Qin Daoxian nodded and said earnestly, Remember Daoxian. Watching Qin Xinhe leave. Qin Daoxian seemed to have lost all his strength and lay back, sleeping beside Ling Tan. He was lying on the grass in the courtyard, raised his head, looked at the blue sky and white clouds that could not be seen to an end, his eyelids were fighting and he fell into a deep sleep. This time, he is too tired. In this sleep he slept for more than 10 hours. When he woke up again it was already late at night. Taking a look at the sky, Qin Daoxian gave up his practice today, and took a rare chance to be lazy. Think about it. He took out 2 items from the storage bag and placed them in front of him. These 2 items are the harvest of his trip to the Mo family. The first item is the First Order Defense Sword Art given to him by Zhou Muqing Rock Sword Art. This sword art can just make up for Qin Daoxian's lack of defense, and can improve his strength in a short period of time. The second item is a First Order high-grade leopard-shaped puppet beast captured by Qin Daoxian from the Mo family library. This puppet beast is not strong. Qin Daoxian reckoned that as long as the chi-refining cultivator put his head aside and insisted on the wind blade technique released by it, there would basically not be too much danger. Because of the wind blade technique of this puppet beast, it can only preview the target. In other words, the friar will not be attacked by it as long as it avoids the position while it is aiming at you. Unlike the spells released by monks, they are also controlled by divine consciousness, and it is difficult to dodge. Puppet beasts do not have this ability. Actually, Qin Daoxian was already surprised enough that the puppet beast in front of him could release spells. Because it's normal. Spells are things that monks use true qi or true qi to release according to a special Dao pattern trajectory. This pattern is somewhat similar to the pattern, but it is completely different. Moreover, with the improvement of the spell rank, the complexity of the Dao pattern will become larger and larger, and the power will become stronger and stronger. Of course, the difficulty of release can always be gradually reduced as the cultivator's understanding of the spell pattern deepens. Just like Qin Daoxian's kendo level, he will always step into a new realm as he deepens his understanding of sword art. Therefore, these things are done by monks and Qin Daoxian is not surprised. He wondered why a puppet could cast spells? This had a dramatic impact on his long-established worldview. After all, a puppet is a dead thing, how can it understand the spell pattern? Not to mention that it is nonsense to outline the spell pattern and then release it. Except for special disposable materials such as lingyu and talisman paper, there is nothing that can record the spell pattern, let alone outline it repeatedly. Besides, even if there is this thing, it is extremely precious, how can it be widely popularized? Think of this. Qin Daoxian's curiosity burned like a raging fire. This moment, he seems to have found the motivation to study the driving array and the fusion of spirits. But until Qin Daoxian dismantled the leopard-shaped puppet beast into a pile of wreckage, he did not find the secret of the opponent's release of spells. Actually, it's normal to think about it. This kind of thing must be the core secret of the puppet beast. How could he be able to find it by opening a puppet beast? Chapter 89. Researched overnight. Qin Daoxian still had nothing to gain and finally had to give up regretfully. After all, he still has too little knowledge of puppets. If he has an inheritance of refining puppet beasts, he can still try to study it. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian smiled freely. Facing the rising sun, he stood up, stretched his waist, and then got up from the wind and flew towards the port of Jianghu Island. He didn't forget. Today is the beginning of the month, the day he agreed to deal with Luo Li, Sequoia Island. Wanghai Pavilion. When Qin Daoxian arrived by boat, in the distance, a petite woman was leaning on the railing of Wanghai Pavilion with her back to him. The woman's upper body is very enchanting, making people see blood gushing out. But looking down, her lower body is not the slender legs of a human woman, but a fish tail that is about zhang long and is flapping the sea water. Seemingly feeling a sense of heart, Luo Li turned her head and saw Qin Daoxian coming by boat. A smile appeared on her pretty face. "I came earlier than you this time." She raised her small fist and sounded a little meanly. Hearing these charming words, Qin Daoxian smiled, jumped up and flew towards Wang Haiding. "Long time no see, Miss Luo, stay safe?" "I'm fine," Luo Li thought for a while, then smiled. "It's not just me now, my mare people have finally gained a firm foothold in the vicinity of the Magic Ape Mountain, thanks to the weapons you brought us. We are a fair deal, no one can help anyone," Qin Daoxian said with a smile. "Anyway, I have to thank you. It is because of you that my clan has survived, thank you," Luo Li said sternly. Qin Daoxian didn't bother about this topic and said instead, "By the way, I promised you before that I would trade Lingmi with your merman, and now I have found a supply channel for Lingmi." As he said that, he pointed to the cargo ship that was parked on the sea not far away. "There may be a lot of Lingmi. I don't know if you can get it back." Hearing this, Luo Li asked curiously, "How much is a little more?" "You better come with me to see." "Okay." After that, the two flew towards the cargo ship. On board. When the cargo ship's cabin was opened, half of the cabin was piled up with corn crystals. This? Suddenly seeing so much food, Luo Li was immediately speechless with excitement. In the underwater world, they generally feed on algae with spiritual energy, but how can algae be nourished by spiritual rice? The shark people eat algae plants, and it is basically difficult to maintain the consumption of cultivation. Only by hunting down some monsters occasionally can it be better. Therefore, the path of cultivation is very difficult for the mare people who are refining their body and chi at the same time. Compared with the mare people, the cultivation environment of the human race is much better. The human race not only has a complete alchemy system, but also is good at planting various spiritual medicines and spiritual fruits, and also opens up spiritual fields. In short, Qin Daoxian had to say a word of admiration in the use of cultivation resources. Really racked my brains. It is precisely because of this racking of brains that the human race has become the overlord of this world, pressing countless races under its feet. The human race can reach its current status, not only by the ability to reproduce, but also by the continuous exploration of the path of cultivation. Inside the cabin, Luo Li stared at Lingmi in front of her with bright eyes, and turned around and said, "Can I ask the people to take it away?" "Please." Qin Daoxian laughed. So, one after another, the mermen emerged from the edge of the cargo ship. Each of them brought a unique white giant shell and packed the Lingmi into the giant shell. It took more than an hour. The cabin was gradually empty. "Okay, I used your Qin family's contribution points to pay for this time, take a look." With that said, Luo Li handed over a jade slip. Qin Daoxian took the jade slip, and after swept away his consciousness, he immediately took out another jade slip he kept from the storage bag and crossed out the deposit of the mare people. After a comparison, Qin Daoxian handed back Luo Li's jade slip and said with a smile, "The money and goods have been received, and Miss Luo has put them away." Luo Li took the jade slip and looked at Qin Daoxian with a hint of hesitation on her pretty face. "What's the matter? Is there anything else?" Qin Daoxian looked at her strangely. "No." Luo Li shook his head. "It's just a little strange, your human race obviously has a much better living environment than our mermaid race. Why do you look so tired?" "Exhausted." Qin Daoxian touched his face, somewhat understanding what the other party meant. Tired indeed. Although Qin Daoxian did not support the family by himself like Qin Xinhe, but when it comes to his contribution to the Qin family, no one can compare to 1/10 of the patriarchs of the Qin family. When the Qin family was poor and weak he was worried, but when the Qin family became rich but lacked in strength he was even more like walking on thin ice. The past 2 years, Qin Daoxian hardly ever relaxes for a day, his mind has been tense, how can he not feel tired? Just as he was thinking. A melodious voice came into his ears. This song is like a trickling stream, flowing in his heart, soothing his nervous emotions and making him feel like he is in the harbor of home. Under the comfort of this song, Qin Daoxian slowly closed his eyes, the tightness between his eyebrows gradually loosened, and his mind returned to peace. A long time. When the singing stopped, Qin Daoxian opened his eyes and exclaimed, "It's so beautiful. Does it sound good?" Luo Li smiled happily like a child. "If you think it sounds good, I will sing it to you every time I come to Guanhating in the future." "Okay, it's a deal." "Well, that's for sure." Watching Luo Li turn over and jump into the sea, Qin Daoxian smiled slightly, and then drove the cargo ship back to Jianghu Island. A month later, the Sangxiafeng city of Guang'an Prefecture was shaken by a piece of news. The Mo family was raided and wiped out. Although the Mo family is not a big family, it is also a qi refining family with spiritual veins. Among all qi refining families, the Mo family belongs to the top level. Such a big family has been confiscated and exterminated. How can everyone not be shocked and terrified? Just when everyone was terrified, the Zhou family patrol team came out to refute the rumor that the Mo family was indeed raided and exterminated by their patrol team. However, unlike outside rumors, the Mo family was raided and annihilated because they were intercepted by the Guang'an Mansion comrades and captured by the patrol fleet on the spot. Finally, the evidence recorded by Qin Daoxian was still circulated among the scattered cultivators. Seeing this evidence, the discerning person knows that this Mo family must have kicked the iron plate. Otherwise there would be such a coincidence that when his Mo family intercepted the Qin family cargo ship, it happened to meet the Zhou family patrol team? Combined with the disputes between the Mo family and the Qin family in the market of magic tools in Sangxiafeng City, everyone seems to understand the intrigue behind this. In the end, everyone came to a conclusion that behind the Qin family, there is probably the support of the Zhou family. After coming to this conclusion, the small families and the scattered cultivators in Sangxiafeng City changed their eyes on the Hongyin Feijin shop. The Qin family was immediately included in the list of not to be provoked by these small families and loose cultivators. Not only that, as the Qin family became famous, more and more foundation-building families threw olive branches to the Qin family, wanting to communicate closely with the Qin family. After Qin Xinhe returned to Guang'an Mansion, he received an unknown number of invitations. Of course, among these invitations he did not read the invitations of the ordinary qi refining family, leaving only a bunch of invitations from the foundation-building family. Among them, there is an invitation that Qin Xinhe pays the most attention. That's the invitation from the Yang family. Chapter 90. Uncle 13, are you saying that the ancestor of the Yang family has broken through to the Zifu period? Twin Lakes Island. Qin Daoxian looked at Qin Xinhe in surprise and exclaimed, "This is an invitation from the Yang family, how can it be fake?" With that said, Qin Xinhe handed over the invitation from the Yang family. He opened the invitation and wrote the words Yang Linyuan Zifu Banquet. Yang Linyuan is the name of the head of the Yang family. Hearing that he is nearly 200 years old, he did not expect that the other party would break through to the Purple Palace period when Shouyuan was approaching. For some reason, Qin Daoxian smelled a rush of wind and rain from this small invitation. The Yang family is the second largest family in Guang'an Prefecture. Although it has always been incomparable to the Zhou family among high-level cultivators, the foundation of the Yang family is by no means comparable to that of ordinary foundation-building families. The Yang family has a population of nearly 10 million and hundreds of thousands of cultivators, and has monopolized the ship business of the entire Guang'an Prefecture. The number of foundation-building cultivators in the family has reached nearly 1,000. Now that the Yang family leader has broken through to the Purple House period, it will undoubtedly break the Zhou family's dominance of the Guang'an House. Although the Zhou family has nearly 10 cultivators in the Purple House. Not only did the ancestors of the Zhou family reach the complete cultivation level of Zifu, but Zhou Mubai, the arrogant of the Zhou family, was also a legendary sword cultivator, whose combat power far surpassed that of cultivators of the same rank. But the Yang family has never expected to rely on their family to compete with the Zhou family. For so many years, the Yang family has been seeking to form the Guang'an Immortal League, led by the Yang family and united with many small families in Guang'an Prefecture, to build another immortal city to compete with the immortal city of Guang'an Prefecture. Because the Yang family had long been dissatisfied with the Zhou families of most of the prophets of the immortal city of Guang'an Mansion. After all, the Yang family is also a big family with a population of nearly 10 million. The Yang family has a large population, which means that it consumes a lot of resources. In recent years, the Yang family has become more and more powerless, especially after the fall of Zenangwan. Sangzhou has been repeatedly cut down on the resources from Izumo. It made the Yang family even worse. Seems to think of something. Qin Daoxuan's heart moved slightly and thoughtfully said, "The Zhou family is preparing to hold an auction event, and the Yang family is going to hold a grand banquet in the Purple House, which is really interesting." Qin Xinhe shook his head. The battle of the big clan is not something that our small clan can participate in. However, it is very likely that the Yang family wants to re-raise the Guang'an Immortal League through the banquet of old ancestor Yang Zifu this time. Zhou and Yang's families are pointed at Meimong, and Guang'an Prefecture is going to enter an eventful autumn. Yes. Qin Xinhe sighed and finally settled the Mo family. The Zhou and Yang families made new waves again. Fortunately, these two families are fighting between big clans. As long as the Qin family does not actively participate in it, it will generally not affect the Qi refining family like the Qin family. After all, the Zhou and Yang families still have the Qinyuan sword sect pressing down on their heads. Even if they fight, it will only be a secret fight at most, and it is impossible to reach the point of clear swords and spears. In this way, the Qin family is even less dangerous. In any case, our Qin family will first get the market for the magical instruments in the Sangxiafang city, which is the most practical benefit. That's right. Qin Xinhe nodded and said with a smile, "In the past few months when I went to Guang'an Prefecture, I found that many magic weapon shops were closed. There used to be more than 40 magic weapon shops, but now less than 10 are struggling to support them. It is estimated that after this year, these magic weapon shops will also close their doors." Finally hearing the exciting news, Qin Daoxuan smiled and said, "I thought they would hold on for a while longer, but I didn't expect to surrender so quickly." Qin Xinhe shook his head and said, "Do you think that these magic weapon shops have the advantages of my Qin family? Most of their instruments are second-hand instruments purchased by the children of the family, and they don't last long. If they can't be sold for a long time, the charm of the instruments will completely dissipate, and they will become a pile of scrap metal. How many can withstand this loss?" Hearing this, Qin Daoxuan nodded, "That's right. Why does Hans look down on the low-end magic weapon market? Isn't it because the profit is too low? And once the holding time is too long, the magic weapon will be damaged, and the loss will outweigh the gain. Not every family is like the Qin family, which can build a factory for the production of flying swords, and can get cheap raw materials from the mere people. If not for these two unique conditions, it is impossible for the Qin family to obtain such high profits in the low-end magic tool business. In the eyes of the outside world, the business of magic tools in the Sangxiafang city run by the Qin family is completely earned by coolies. It is to rely on the cultivation of monks with poor qualifications to support monks with good qualifications. Such behavior. It is difficult for other families to follow suit. Because monks are also human beings, people have desires, and there is no group of people willing to sacrifice themselves to fulfill others, even if they come from the same family and have the same blood. There are hundreds of thousands of monks in the Zhou family, and monks with poor qualifications are the mainstream. How many of them are willing to sacrifice their own way to become an elite clan like Zhou Mubai? Hardly. It was the fact that the Zhou family gave different treatment to ordinary children and elite children. At first, people in the clan were disturbed and complained. Not to mention completely sacrificing one side and fulfilling the other side. If the Zhou family really dared to do this, countless traitors would appear in minutes, and they would leave the family and become loose cultivators. Therefore, even if the outside world knows that Qin is using this method to earn the benefits of the magical instrument market in Sangxiafang City, they can't follow suit. Because they know that their family cannot be so united. Now the Hongyin Feijin store sells about 600 Feijin per month, and it is far from reaching the market saturation level. Speaking of this, Qin Xinhe sighed, "It's a pity that Qin Daochuan and the others are too young, otherwise Hongyin Feijin store can be open all the time if they deliver goods instead of me. We can also monopolize the magic weapon market in Sangxiafang City earlier. Uncle 13 doesn't have to be impatient. Sooner or later, the magic weapon market in Sangxiafang City will be ours. Now we just need to be steady and the family's life will be better." For the future of the Qin family, Qin Xinhe has never been so confident as he is today. 2 years ago, he could only guard the more than 8,000 spiritual stones accumulated by the ancestors of the Qin family in the clan library, and did not know where the family should go next. But in just 2 years, the Chen family cultivator not only expanded to 11 people, but also obtained the magic weapon market in Sangxiafang City, Guang'an Prefecture. This alone will bring more than 100,000 spirit stones to the Chen family every year. Not to mention that they are still secretly trading with the Mare people. Correct, Qin Xinhe said sternly. Has the latest batch of immortal seedlings in the clan been screened? Qin Daoxian knew that the immortal seedlings in Uncle 13's mouth were referring to the nearly 10,000 children of the Chen family who were born to the first women of the Izumo country. Uncle 13, don't worry, this is about the foundation of my Qin family, and I have been watching it myself. He paused. There are a total of 9,877 Qin family children, and a total of 108 immortal seedlings have been selected, and now this batch of immortal seedlings is less than 2 years old. I have instructed Qinji to focus on taking care of these immortal seedlings and the parents who gave birth to them. Okay. Qin Xinhe nodded. We must give the best treatment to the parents who gave birth to immortal seedlings, so as to encourage my other Qin males to have more children. Don't worry, I plan to allocate 10,000 spirit stones this year to encourage family males to have children. That's fine, that's fine. Qin Xinhe nodded involuntarily. Qin Daoxian was more thoughtful in this matter than he thought, so he had nothing to worry about. Chapter 91. There's one more thing. Qin Xinhe paused and said, I want to take Daochuan to Guang'an House and teach him by the way. It can be regarded as a successor for the family's magic weapon shop. Heard. Qin Daoxian couldn't help but look at Qin Ziyan's temples, which seemed to be a little paler again, only to feel that his throat was a little dry. Okay. Qin Daoxian nodded. He'll go back and tell Daochuan about this. Qin Xinhe said with a smile. Then it's nothing, you should be busy with what you are doing, I will go back first. Done. Qin Xinhe flew towards his original cave in the Red Copper Mountains alone. Looking at Qin Ziyan's figure disappearing from the field of vision, his vision couldn't help but blur. This moment, he finally realized that Uncle 13 was really old. Qin Daoxian desperately wanted to seize the life that Uncle 13 was losing, but he found that he couldn't do anything. Wan Xinghai is not without the treasures of heaven and earth that can increase his lifespan. But that kind of treasure, let's not say that no one will sell it. Even if someone sells it, it is not something that the current Qin family can touch. By the way, Zhou's auction event. Qin Daoxian suddenly thought of something and clenched his fists tightly. He remembered that at this Zhou's auction, there seemed to be a 1,000-year-old vermilion fruit that could increase the cultivator's lifespan by 30 years. I just don't know if the Qin family can afford the price of this zhugua. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian took a deep breath. He knew that even if Qin Xinhe used the life-extending treasure, it would only delay the arrival of death. Qin Ziyan's qi and blood have long since decayed, and it is simply not something that a life-extending treasure can make up for. This means that it is impossible for Qin Xinhe to build the foundation. At the very least, based on Qin Daoxian's knowledge, he didn't know any way in the world of immortals to make a foundation-building success for a person who had completely lost hope of foundation building. If the Qin family rises 50 years earlier, Qin Xinhe will be able to build the foundation. There are many monks who have succeeded in establishing a foundation under the spiritual root. The poor spiritual root aptitude means that the cultivation speed is slow, and the cultivation speed can be compensated by external things. For example, various spiritual pills, water spirit beads and other treasures to assist cultivation can make up for the lack of spiritual roots of monks. Therefore, for the great powers of practice, spiritual roots are only one of the conditions to determine whether to cultivate this immortal seedling, but it is by no means the only condition, not even the most important condition. Because the spiritual root is insufficient, resources can still be used to remedy it. The lack of talents such as xinxing and comprehension is difficult to make up for with external things. Therefore, a big sect or a big family like Qinyuan Jianzong, in addition to taking a fancy to the disciple's spiritual root qualifications, will also use various methods to test and hone the disciple's character. If Qin Xinhe was a few decades younger, he would be able to use his resources to reach the foundation building stage or even higher, just like a cultivator of the Taoist generation. It's just that Qin Ziyan's qi and blood are completely depleted now, not to mention the treasures of heaven and earth. Even if he invites true monarch nascent soul to come, he will not be able to recover, and at most he can prolong his lifespan. Time flies. In the blink of an eye, half a year has passed. Southwest waters of Wangxinghai. The Qin family's Zhongyun sailed on the rippling blue sea. Qin Daoxian was wearing a blue Taoist robe and holding a bun. His thin and handsome face was facing a huge island looming in the distance. The island in front of me is called Jianghu Island. It is named after the island is like a golden crow falling on the sea when viewed from a high altitude. Jianghu Island is the clan of the Yang family, the second largest family in Guang'an Prefecture. The Yang family's place name is Lingyuan County. Compared with Guang'an Mansion, Lingyuan County has a much smaller reputation. Generally, except for some family members, few loose cultivators have heard of this name. Not at all like the Guang'an Prefecture of Lingbei Island, it is not only well known in the sea area of 100,000 miles. Even in the entire Zhangzhou, the immortal city of Guang'an is a famous immortal city. The reputation of Guang'an houses Xianqing is so great, and it is closely related to the strength of the Zhou family. You must know that Zhangzhou has suffered several disasters, leading to the withering of high-level cultivators in the state. So far there is only one Jindan cultivator, the ancestor of the Yi family in Zhangzhou, and he is still an early Jindan cultivator. From this point of view, in terms of strength, the Zhou family is almost only below the Yi family. In the entire Zhangzhou, there are not many families that can rival the Zhou family. The ancestor of the Zhou family was Zaifu's complete cultivation base, and he saw that the golden pill was imminent. Zhoujia Qinjiao Zhoumubai is even more a figure on the Zifu Qinjiao list. You must know that the monks who can be on the Zifu Qinjiao list will almost become Jindan real people as long as they don't fall in the middle. According to Zhoumubai's age and talent, his confidence in breaking through to the golden core stage is even much higher than that of the ancestors of the Zhou family. Look at it this way. It is also understandable why the Zhou family cultivators are so arrogant in Guang'an Mansion. It is entirely the confidence brought to them by the strength of the family. In other words, it was the confidence that Zhoumubai brought them. Whether it is the Zhou family's ancestor breaking through to Jindan, or Zhoumubai becoming a Jindan real person in the future, the Zhou family can instantly replace the awkward Yi family and become the first family in Zhangzhou. Until then, the radiation range of the Zhou family's influence is more than 10 times wider than it is now. The benefits brought by this cannot be simply calculated with numbers. With its Songyun docked at the port of Jianghu Island, Qin Daoxian found that a large number of ships have docked here at the port. Scott. There is also the light of the base building cultivator constantly passing by. Half a year later, Qin Daoxian's cultivation level has also gone further, reaching the 8th level of qi refining, which is only one step away from the 9th level of qi refining. Until now, Qin Daoxian was a little unbelievable. He actually raised his cultivation base from the 3rd level of qi refining to the 8th level of qi refining in just over 2 years. Almost 2.5 stories a year. This speed is not much different from that of Zhoumubai at the beginning. He even suspected that if he could have the current cultivation conditions sooner, he might have really broken the foundation building record set by Zhoumubai. Wait until Zhangyun stops. Qin Daoxian jumped and flew to the dock. On the pier, there are still many qi refining cultivators like Qin Daoxian. Most of them are children of the qi refining family, and only a few are loose cultivators. Obviously, these loose cultivators who can be invited by the Qin family are all outstanding in some respects. It cannot be a person who is useless except for cultivation. Qin Daoxian's 8th layer qi refining cultivation base was inconspicuous in the crowd. These monks who can represent the various qi refining families to participate in the Zifu banquet are basically the patriarchs of each clan who come with the best descendants of the clan. It is quite rare for a person like Qin Daoxian to be alone in the crowd, so it also attracted some people's attention. Daoist friend is polite. Looking around, a middle-aged cultivator with a fat body and a good smile saw Qin Daoxian. His eyes lit up. He walked over and cupped his hands to Qin Daoxian, the cultivator of the Zhang family in Xiaoling Hudao. Dare to ask if you are a Taoist friend of the Chen family on Shuanghu Island? Hearing this greeting, the crowd suddenly whispered earnestly. Qin family cultivator? Which Qin family? The Qin family who sells magic tools in the Sangxiafeng market of Guang'an Prefecture. Is that the Qin family? I heard that they have something to do with the Zhou family. I don't know if it's true or not. It should be chasing the wind. How could the Zhou family protect a qi refining family? Hear this greeting. Qin Daoxian stopped, looked at the other party and said, "Oh? Do fellow Taoists recognize me?" Seeing Qin Daoxian talking, the fat cultivator suddenly huddled with joy. When I went to the Hongyin Feijian store to buy Feijian, I was fortunate enough to see fellow Taoists. So it is. Qin Daoxian invited with a smile. If that's the case, why don't we go together? I can't ask for it. The fat monk was immediately excited when he heard this. The Qin family is the most popular crafting family in Guang'an. During this time, even the foundation building family has been rushing to make friends with them, wanting to have priority to obtain the magic tools made by the Qin family. In his Jianghu family, a qi refining family that didn't even have a spiritual vein, and usually couldn't even flatter, how could he miss such a good opportunity? Chapter 92. Along the way. After chatting, Qin Daoxian finally found out the origin of this Jianghu family. The 9th level qi refining cultivator named Zhang Zhixian came from a family cultivator on Linghu Island, a small island less than 10,000 miles away from Lingbei Island. Arguably, this kind of small family that doesn't even have a spiritual vein should not be invited by Yang ancestors' Purple Mansion banquet. However, according to Zhang Zhixian, the monks of their family were invited by the Yang family because they were good at making magic charms. Taoist said Lingfu, is it referring to the jade talisman or paper talisman, paper talisman? The fat cultivator Zhang Zhixian cupped his hands again and said with a wry smile, the material for making jade talismans is too expensive. How can my Zhang family have the financial resources to bear the loss of failure to make them? This is the sadness of the small family. Even if they are willing to try, they are often unable to bear the loss and dare not venture forward. Qin Daoxian knew that if the Zhang family made the jade talisman, then he could not have heard the name of the Zhang family. Just like their Shuanghu Island Qin family. Although it is a qi refining family, due to the huge number of instruments sold by the Qin family, they were even invited by the foundation building family as a guest. Out of the pier, Qin Daoxian, together with the 2 monks of the Zhang family, flew towards Lingyuan County. Lingyuan County is a closed county of the Yang family, and there is also a square city in the county. It's just that compared to the immortal city of Guang'an Prefecture, this square city is simply the gap between the sparrow and the phoenix. Anyway, in Qin Daoxian's view, this square market is not as good as the scattered workshop market in Guang'an Prefecture. Not to mention the prosperity of the central business district of Guang'an. After crossing Lingyuan County and flying for hundreds of miles, a rolling spiritual mountain appeared in front of several people. Fellow Daoist Qin, the Yang family's Lingshan is in front. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian's heart moved slightly. Dao Yu Zhang has been to the Yang family? Zhang Zhixian was stunned for a while, then said with a smile, I was fortunate enough to visit once. The two were joking. The figure stopped in front of Yangjialing Mountain. This is the cultivation place of the Yang family cultivator. Not only does it have a large mountain protection formation, but also has a forbidden air formation. There is no special magic weapon. Even the Purple House cultivator cannot fly within the coverage of the Yang family's spiritual veins. Standing at the foot of Lingshan Mountain looking up, a sky-reaching staircase made of white jade appeared in front of everyone, and on both sides of the staircase were full of Yang family cultivators in uniform robes. Obviously, these monks were specially sent by the Yang family to welcome guests. On the stairs, some monks have already started to climb the mountain. After presenting the invitation and congratulations to the Yang family cultivator, Qin Daoxian began to walk slowly towards the mountain with everyone. Walking room. One after another singing and drinking echoed in the mountains. The Zhang family in Linghudo presented a 1,000-year-old snow lotus, and I wish Patriarch Yang an early realization of immortality and the blessing of immortality. The Qin family on Shuanghu Island presented a second-order water spirit bead, I wish Patriarch Yang. The Wu family on Fengwu Island gave a second-order flying sword, and I wish Patriarch Yang. Maple Valley Island. About half an hour later, Qin Daoxian and others finally arrived at the banquet scene. Looking around, the palace is crowded with people. Fortunately, there are more maids and servants in the hall, and every monk who comes to celebrate is well arranged. From these details, you can see how the Yang family's background is. If it was the Qin family, it would definitely not have the strength to receive so many monks at the same time, and there would be no problem. Under the guidance of the Yang family's maid, Qin Daoxian found his seat and sat down, looking at the dazzling array of delicacies on the table, thinking that this trip would be worth it. In his eyes anyway. This trip to the Yang family is all about soy sauce. Neither Qin Xinhe nor he would want the Qin family to be involved in the battle between the Zhou and Yang families. I believe he is not the only cultivator who holds such an idea. If nothing else, the millions of scattered cultivators in Guang'an Prefecture would at least not do anything to stand in line with the Zhou and Yang families. If it is a big family like the Wu family and the Zhao family. Because the family is big and the goal is big, it is impossible not to stand in line. A small qi refining family like the Qin family on Jianghu Island can completely avoid standing in line. After all, there are so many small families in Guang'an Prefecture. Even if the Zhou and Yang families wanted to settle accounts in the autumn, they would at most find those families who were on the wrong side, not the Qin family that didn't stand in line. Otherwise, such domineering actions will be publicized, and it will be a huge blow to the reputation of both the Zhou family and the Yang family. The price of the family's poor reputation, just look at the Yi family cultivator. Last time, a base-building cultivator of the Yi family wanted to buy the water spirit beads in Guang'an Mansion. If it was replaced by the Zhenengguan battle before the outbreak, where would the cultivator of the Yi family need to buy it in person? The Zhou family had already offered the part of the water spirit beads that the cultivators of the Yi family needed at a low price. And now, not to mention asking the Zhou family to offer the Shui Lingzhu, if they didn't want the two families to be too embarrassed, the Zhou family could even make a decision not to sell the Shui Lingzhu to the Yi family cultivator. As the banquet goes on, the monks began to gather together and chatted. Most of the people around Qin Daoxian were the children of the Qi refining family. Although he is the young patriarch of the Chen family, he doesn't show much in Guang'an Mansion after all. Apart from a few cultivators from the Zhang family, there were not many people present who could recognize him. When Qin Daoxian saw this, he was happy that no one bothered him. Anyway, the purpose of his trip is to eat and drink, and then go home after a soy sauce. As long as he does not offend the Yang family, there is no way for him to stand in line or even join the so-called Guang'an Immortal League. Push the cup to change the room. Zhang Zhixing couldn't help but sighed. The Yang family is really rich. How can this table of ingredients cost more than 1,000 spirit stones? So many tables, tiske. Saying that, he shook his head enviously. It seems that he is envious of the Yang family's financial resources, and seems to be lamenting the waste of the family. Qin Daoxian didn't feel anything. In the eyes of the Qin family today, 1,000 spirit stones are nothing but drizzle. Having said that, there was an expression of deep conviction on his face, and his mouth continued to agree. Just when he was about to answer, a beautiful and moving Yang family maid walked over with lotus steps. Is your son Qin Daoxian? The glamorous maid walked in front of Qin Daoxian. Her delicate body was slightly blessed, and she said delicately, "It's right here. What's the girl's order?" Qin Daoxian put down the wine glass in his hand and asked, "Master Qin, my ancestors have an invitation." Hear this. Qin Daoxian's expression suddenly changed. Even the monks at the same table stopped talking and cast their curious eyes. Who is this man? Do not know. Ancestor Yang would actually invite him alone. Which big clan's son do you think he is? Impossible. How can the children of the big family sit at the same table with the children of the Qi refining family like me? Wait, Qin Daoxian, it won't be the Qin family. Qin Daoxian ignored the whispers of the monk at the same table. He had already set off a storm in his heart now, and he had just come here with a soy sauce attitude. He never expected to be summoned by the ancestors of the Yang family, and it seemed that he was summoned alone. I don't know if this trip is a blessing or a curse. For a time, Qin Daoxian felt very uneasy in his heart. Chapter 93. Yangjiling Mountain. A ray of light flew from the Zifuyan Palace to another mountain stream basin in Lingshan. This basin is surrounded by mountains. In the center of the basin is a huge Linghu Lake. At first glance, it looks like an inland sea. In front of Linghu Lake, an elegant gazebo stands by the lake. Inside the pavilion, there was a vaguely white figure sitting. The two of them lowered the light. Qin Daoxian hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "I have Fairy Lao, just now I am rude and I look forward to Fairy Haihan." The female cultivator of the Yang family, dressed as a maid, held her cherry mouth lightly, smiled gracefully and shook it. "It's the breath-holding technique I practiced, and it has nothing to do with young Master Chen." Hearing this, Qin Daoxian nodded clearly. Just now, he thought that this person in front of him was just an ordinary and glamorous maid, but he didn't expect that the other party was actually a cultivator, and he almost made a joke along the way. But in his heart, he couldn't help but feel the horror of this breath-holding secret technique. There was a dignified foundation-building cultivator. Standing in front of him, he couldn't even notice it, thinking that others were ordinary people. "Young Master Chen, please." Yang Gongwan stretched out her plain white hand and said with a smile, "Don't let my ancestors wait for a long time." "Yes." Qin Daoxian cupped his hands again and walked in the direction of Yang Gongwan's finger. With an uneasy mood, Qin Daoxian walked to the pavilion. Inside the gazebo, An old man dressed in a white robe with white hair and beard, but full of energy facing Linghu, sat on the stone bench of the pavilion. The old man is surrounded by a fish basket, holding a fishing rod in his hand and is fishing. Seeing this, Chen Daoxian didn't dare to neglect. He stepped forward and bowed quickly and said, "Junior Chen Daoxian, pay tribute to Ancestor Yang. Sit down." Yang Linyuan turned his head with a smile and looked at Chen Daoxian. Chen Daoxian glanced at the pavilion, and there was only a stone bench 3 steps away from the old man. He took a deep breath, stabilized his mind, walked to the stone bench, sat upright, and only dared to sit on half of the stone bench. "Don't be nervous, I don't eat people." Seemed to feel Chen Daoxian's nervousness. Yang Linyuan smiled without looking back. The younger generation is not nervous, just overwhelmed by your ancestors' temperament. Ha 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 ha. Hearing this flattery, Yang Linyuan laughed out loud. He put down the fishing rod in his hand, picked up a piece of silk cloth, wiped his hands and said, "Do you like fishing?" Chen Daoxian shook his head. "I've never fished before. Fishing is a very interesting thing, but my family's spiritual lake has never been calm, and the fish in it are more savvy than each other." Chen Daoxian did not understand the meaning of his words, so he could only keep silent. As he was thinking about how to answer, whoa! A huge wave rose from the center of the lake. Accompanying this wave, a huge figure turned out of the lake. This figure seems to be larger than the blood-spotted sea snake, the first-order high-grade monster that Chen Daoxian killed. The waves surged from the center of the lake, and when the lake water rushed to the pavilion, it almost formed a small tsunami. But whether it was Yang Linyuan or Chen Daoxian, they were all indifferent in the face of this disaster that was enough to cause the death of mortals. Next moment, the tsunami seemed to hit an invisible barrier and was forced to stop abruptly. The surging water on the entire lake also seemed to be directly smoothed out by a pair of invisible hands, restoring the calm of the past. Second-order monster. Purple thunder snapping turtle. The little guy is naughty and makes you laugh. Old ancestors' words are heavy. Chen Daoxian arched his hands. This little turtle that I raised is the most domineering in this lake. In addition to eating normally, he also likes to hunt and kill fish for fun. Makes me uneasy fishing here. Sometimes I'm thinking, although the blue-green spirit fish is a first-order spirit beast, if so many spirit fish are united, how can this little turtle be so presumptuous? Unfortunately, these fish are too shrewd, they only know how to escape and never know how to combine. Having said this, Yang Laozu shook his head. Chen Daoxian couldn't understand the meaning of the other party's words at this time. He raised his head and argued, perhaps the fact that the blue-green spirit fish did not unite against the purple thunder snapping turtle is the biggest reason why their species can multiply in this spirit lake. Besides, if they join forces to fight, how many blue-green spirit fish will die in the end? Hearing this, Yang Linyuan laughed. You forgot the old man? If this beast really dared to be so presumptuous, the old man would be the first to stew it and make soup. Say it. Chen Daoxian and Yang Laozu looked at each other. In the end, Chen Daoxian lowered his head and fell silent. Yang Linyuan is so shrewd he will say it for this sake, sometimes silence means rejection. The Chen family was afraid of the power of the Zhou family and refused to join the Guang'an Xianmeng. You don't want to join the Guang'an Immortal League? Yang Linyuan's tone became colder, and his voice was a little ethereal. It's not that I don't want to, I really don't dare. Chen Daoxian stood up, bowed and said, my Chen family is weak and there are no foundation-building cultivators in the family. I really dare not offend the Zhou family. I hope Patriarch Yang has mercy. Heard this. Yang Linyuan showed a faint smile on the corner of his mouth. Oh? You dare not offend the Zhou family? Aren't you afraid of offending my Yang family? Hearing this, Chen Daoxian bowed his head and said nothing. For a long time. Chen Daoxian heard a sigh, and Yang Linyuan waved his hands in dismay and said, that's it, just get up. No wonder your Chen family is afraid of the Zhou family. In this Guang'an mansion, who is not afraid of the Zhou family? After saying that, he sighed again. Immediately after the conversation changed, Yang Linyuan continued, when my Guang'an Xianmeng rebuilds the Xianqing, would your Chen family wish to open the magic weapon shop in the new Xianqing? Heard this. Chen Daoxian raised his head and said with a smile, my Chen family is honored. Hearing this reply, Yang Linyuan seemed a little tired, waved his hand and said, you Chen family can just remember today's promise, let's go. Junior retire. Bowed again and saluted, Chen Daoxian slowly exited the pavilion. After leaving the gazebo, Chen Daoxian breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, he was not forced to join the Guang'an Immortal League. This also proves that the Yang family is indeed as gentle as the outside world rumored, far less domineering than the Zhou family. If the Zhou family wants to engage in the Guang'an Immortal League, then if Qin Daoxian does not join in today, the Qin family may face all-round retaliation from the Zhou family. Of course, if the Zhou family really engages in some kind of covenant organization like the Guang'an Immortal League, it is estimated that the small family in Guang'an Prefecture would break their heads and want to join in. After all, the principle of leaning against a big tree to enjoy the shade works everywhere. But the Zhou family doesn't even look down on the Yang family, the second largest family in Guang'an, let alone other small families. In the eyes of the Zhou family, Guang'an Mansion is just a small pond. Their goal is to replace the Yi family and become the largest family in Zhangzhou. Chapter 94. Grandfather, Weiner doesn't understand why you are interested in a small Qin family. Even if the Qin family has made some achievements in refining tools, they are only limited to first-order low-grade magic tools. As far as I know, they rarely even sell first-order mid-grade magic tools, which proves that the level of the Qin family's craft refiners is extremely low. Besides, doesn't our Guang'an Xianmeng have a Wu family? Inside the gazebo, Yang Gongwan's pretty face was full of doubts. Hearing the words, Yang Linyuan shook his head. It is precisely because of the Wu family that we need a potential refining family like the Qin family even more. This? Yang Gongwan frowned. You mean to prevent the Wu family from monopolizing the source of the magic weapon of the Guang'an Immortal League? Be prepared for a rainy day. Yang Linyuan raised his head and looked at the mirror-like lake water. The outside world has speculated that the Guang'an Immortal Alliance is targeting the Zhou family, but we, the Wu family and the Zhao family know that even if the Guang'an Immortal Alliance is united, it is definitely not Zhou. Home rival. We are doing this just to hold a group and want to get the part of the interest that belong to us. As for competing with the Zhou family? Yang Linyuan shook his head. Hearing this, Yang Gongwan pursed her lips in dissatisfaction and said nothing. Yang Linyuan seemed to be persuading Yang Gongwan and seemed to be talking to himself. In the Battle of Zhenangguan, it was said that the Zhou family of Guang'an House suffered the most losses, and 6 cultivators of Z House were killed in the battle. In fact, my Yang family, Wu family and Zhao family were the 3 families that suffered the most. Because of this battle, the vitality that we finally recovered from the chaos of God Ju was all lost. Said Yang Linyuan closed his eyes in pain. In the Battle of Zhenangguan 50 years ago, the 2 Zifu cultivators of the Yang family were all killed, the only Zifu cultivator of the Wu family also died, and the Zhao family leader also died in the hands of the Jindan cultivator of the Shenqing Dao League. This battle. It can be said that it has completely changed the power structure of Guang'an Prefecture. Since the 3 families of Yang, Wu, and Zhao lost the cultivators of Zifu, they could never be compared with the Zhou family of Guang'an. Although the Zhou family also lost 6 Zifu cultivators, there are still 7 Zifu cultivators in the Zhou family. Although his vitality was severely damaged, it did not affect the Zhou family's dominance in the Guang'an family at all. Even because the Yang family, the Wu family, and the Zhao family lost the cultivators of the Zifu, the Zhou family's power expanded even more in Guang'anfu. Especially the rise of Zhou Mubai. Simply injected a dose of stimulant into the Zhou family, making the Zhou family even more powerful than before the Battle of Zhenangguan. The Zhou family at this time, in terms of power, was second only to the peak period before the rebellion of Godju. Listening to her grandfather's story of the rise and fall of the family, Yang Gongwan couldn't help being silent. She knew what her grandfather was going to say next. Sure enough, as Yang Linyuan spoke, he changed the subject and said, Xiaowan, you are different, you are the most talented cultivator in my Yang family for thousands of years, not only have the root of the sky but also the spirit of water among the 5 elements. With your talent, as long as you are willing, Zifu and even Jindan are at your fingertips. The outside world says that Zhou Mubai is a once-in-millennium genius in Guang'an Prefecture, but in my opinion, you are no weaker than him. Hearing her grandfather's compliments, Yang Gongwan was not only not happy, but rather gloomy. She knew that her grandfather would have to persuade her again. Yang Linyuan paused. Although the sword cultivator is the first to attack at the same level, but with your water spirit body, if you specialize in water attribute exercises, it may not be much weaker than the sword cultivator. Why are you so persistent? Hearing the words, Yang Gongwan took a deep breath and said in a low voice, 10 years. Give me the last 10 years, if I still can't understand the sword intent within 10 years, I will choose to break through the Purple Palace. Grandfather, I have already stepped on the threshold of Jianghu with 1 foot. Alas, you said the same 10 years ago. Yang Linyuan said, shook his head and said no more. Sword intent is so easy to comprehend. Otherwise, in the entire Guang'an prefecture, Zhou Mubai, the sword immortal of Guang'an, would not be the only one who could comprehend the sword intent during the Foundation establishment period. Seeing that his grandfather was a little unhappy, Yang Gongwan suddenly acted coquettishly. Grandfather, don't be angry. By the way, you told me before that you provide free spiritual meridians for the use of loose cultivators within a radius of 10,000 miles on Jianghu Island. What's the matter? Seeing Yang Gongwan changing the subject so bluntly, Yang Linyuan shook his head helplessly, pointed at her and said, You? Yang Gongwan smiled charmingly, her charming eyes narrowed slightly. Although helpless, Yang Linyuan explained, providing free spiritual veins for loose cultivators to use in the radius of Jianghu Island is the only way for us to compete with the Zhou family. He paused and continued, as for the loose cultivators in Guang'an Prefecture, the biggest factor that hinders their cultivation is not the spiritual pills to assist cultivation, not the water spirit beads and other treasures to assist cultivation, but the most basic spiritual energy. For ordinary loose cultivators, being able to practice in places with spiritual veins is the greatest wish. Why do loose cultivators like to go to Guang'an Prefecture in a group? Is it because of the third-order spiritual vein in the immortal city of Guang'an Prefecture? But with a mere third-order spiritual meridian, with hundreds of thousands of scattered cultivation points, how much can each person get? Not to mention that the Zhou family also used the spirit gathering array to build all the good spiritual eyes into various grades of cave houses for rent. Having said this, Yang Linyuan shook his head, and seemed to be very disdainful of Zhou Jian's behavior of overplucking. And I, Guang'an Xianmeng, build spiritual veins for the use of loose cultivators. It seems to be a big loss in the short term, but in the long run, it is an extremely cost-effective transaction. Yang Linyuan said, with a hint of shrewdness in his eyes, First, our spiritual veins are not used for free. If the loose practitioners want to use our spiritual veins for cultivation, they must open up spiritual fields and plant spiritual medicines in the spiritual veins. Secondly, we can lend spiritual stones to the loose cultivators to support the loose cultivators in doing this. When the loose cultivators have harvested resources such as spirit rice and spirit medicine, and sold these resources in our immortal city of Guang'an Xianmeng, we not only solved the resource problem, but also recovered the spirit stones that were borrowed before. In this way we not only revitalize the newly built fairy city, but also solve various resource problems for the fairy city. This move is a win-win for our Guang'an Immortal League and the scattered cultivators, but to do this, the initial investment will be very, very large. This is also the reason why my Yang family wants to form an alliance, because my Yang family alone does not have enough financial resources to do this. Yang Gongwan listened and carefully analyzed Yang Linyuan's words, her charming eyes getting brighter and brighter. At this moment, she had to admit that although her grandfather's cultivation aptitude was far inferior to hers, in terms of long-term vision, she was definitely the strongest of the Yang family's patriarchs. But then thinking of something, Yang Gongwan frowned and said, But if the Zhou family follows our example. Ha 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 you. Yang Linyuan laughed. Why do you always regard the Zhou family as an enemy just like the outside world? Even if the Zhou family really can't think of it, they will follow our example. But after all, we have the advantage of being one step ahead. There are millions of loose cultivators in Guang'an Prefecture. Could it be that our Guang'an Immortal League can't attract even one loose cultivator? As long as we can attract even 10%, it is a victory. Because before that, we didn't even have one. Yes. Yang Gongwan's eyes lit up. Why do you consider the Zhou family as a competitor? Yang Linyuan's approach is a naked conspiracy. No matter what the Zhou family does, Guang'an Xianmeng will not suffer. Because the nurtured spiritual veins will never run with long legs, right? The spiritual veins are used for free for the loose cultivation, and the loose cultivation will not be useless, right? As long as the loose cultivators are willing to use the spiritual veins cultivated by the Guang'an Immortal Alliance, with the support of the scattered cultivators, it is difficult for the immortal city of the Guang'an Immortal Alliance to flourish. Grandfather, what name did you name our fairy city? Hearing Yang Linyuan's explanation, Yang Gongwan was completely relieved, and couldn't help but inquire about the name of the immortal city to be built. Name? Yang Linyuan looked at the calm lake, pondered for a moment and said, The immortal city of Guang'an Prefecture has a curfew every night. I hope our immortal city can become a city that never sleeps without a curfew, so let's call it Lingday City. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.